Hello friends. Welcome to the Saiyan What Ifs. How are you all? So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Goku became the Void God and fell in love with the Star Goddess. Also be sure to subscribe and like this video. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The Void Awakens. The mountains trembled as Goku's fist connected with empty air. Something was wrong. The familiar rush of ki through his body felt different, colder, vaster, as though his energy now flowed from a well without bottom. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he executed a perfect roundhouse kick. His orange GI whipping through the crisp mountain air. The kick split no opponent, but the space before him seemed to ripple like disturbed water. Goku paused, squinting at the distortion. His calloused fingers reached out, brushing against what should have been nothing. The air parted. For a heartbeat, less than a heartbeat, Goku glimpsed something beyond the tear. Not darkness, not light, something else entirely, something that had no name in any language spoken by mortals. His stomach lurched as though he'd stepped off a cliff, and his vision swam with pinpricks of impossible colors. The tear sealed itself with a sound like a distant whisper. Goku dropped to one knee, suddenly dizzy. What was that? Birds had fallen silent. The Mountai wind no longer rustled through pine needles. In that moment of perfect stillness, Goku felt watched, not by eyes, but by something vast and ancient that had never needed eyes to see. Well, that's new, he muttered, forcing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. 37 years old, and still his body found new ways to surprise him. But this felt fundamental. Different from unlocking Ultra Instinct or mastering Godly Ki. This felt like something breaking inside him, or perhaps something finally awakening. He reached for the water bottle he'd brought, but his fingers never connected. Instead, they passed through the space where the bottle stood, as though reality itself had stepped aside to let him through. The bottle remained untouched, and yet his hand had moved through its space. Okay, seriously weird. Goku flexed his fingers, reassuring himself they were solid. Maybe I should talk to Whis about this. The thought of his divine teacher brought no comfort. Something told Goku this was beyond even the angel's understanding. He'd surpassed limits before. It was practically his specialty, but never had it felt so cosmic. He gathered his things, determined to return home and meditate on this development. As he prepared to use instant transmission, his concentration faltered. The familiar mental map of energy signatures across Earth suddenly expanded, showing him no just the planet but the space beyond, endless, yawning space filled with countless stars, planets, galaxies. Whoa! Goku stumbled backward, vertigo threatening to overwhelm him. Too much information. He pressed his fingers to his forehead, focusing specifically on the Sun family home. The image steadied, and he vanished from the mountain peak. When he reappeared, he wasn't in his kitchen as intended. Instead, he stood in the stratosphere, Earth's curve visible below him. The air was too thin to breathe, and frost immediately formed on his skin. Panicking, Goku focused again and transmitted properly to his destination, materializing in his living room with a gasp for air. Goku, Chi-Chi's voice called from the kitchen. Is that you making all that noise? He didn't answer immediately, too busy examining his hands. For a split second, he could have sworn he'd seen through them, not transparency, but as though they contained infinite space within. Goku. Chi-Chi appeared in the doorway, dish towel in hand. Her expression shifted from irritation to concern. You look like you've seen a ghost. And you're covered in frost. What happened? Training accident, he said automatically. Nothing serious. Chi-Chi's eyes narrowed. After decades of marriage, she knew when he was hiding something. Goku-san, don't you dare tell me, nothing serious, when you look ready to pass out. Sit down before you fall down. He obeyed, sinking into a chair. Chi-Chi pressed a hand to his forehead and gasped. You're freezing. Did you fall in a lake or something? Sort of. He couldn't explain what had happened when he didn't understand it himself. I need to talk to Vegeta. You need to warm up first. Chi-Chi draped a blanket over his shoulders. I'm making hot soup, you're going to eat every drop before you go anywhere. Goku nodded absently, his mind still processing what had happened on the mountain. The tear in reality, the glimpse of nothingness. No, not nothing. Something more fundamental than nothing. As Chi-Chi bustled about the kitchen, Goku closed his eyes. The sensation of being watched had followed him home. Whatever had noticed him through that tear was still paying attention. He shivered, and not from the lingering cold. Across the cosmos, something stirred. In a realm where stars were born and died, a figure composed of living starlight lifted her head. Stella, the star goddess, paused in her work of weaving cosmic radiation into a new stellar nursery. Her hands, glittering with stardust and solar fire, trembled slightly. "Impossible," she whispered, her voice carrying the harmonics of 1,000 suns. "That signature, it cannot be." For the first time in millennia, she felt it, the unmistakable resonance of void energy. Not the benign emptiness between stars, but the primordial void, the anti-existence from which all reality had been carved. The void that, if unleashed, could unmake creation itself. And it was coming from that insignificant blue planet she'd observed occasionally, Earth. Home to remarkably resilient beings for such fragile creatures. Stella's radiance dimmed momentarily as she focused her cosmic awareness on Earth. Searching for the source of the disturbance. Her consciousness swept across continents, through mountains and oceans, until she found it. A man. Just a man. But no ordinary man. Even from across the galaxy, she could sense the impossible wellspring of power within him. Saiyan blood. Yes, she recognized that evolutionary signature, but something else too. Something new, as though the fabric of his being had been rewoven with threads pulled from between the stars. A mortal wielding void energy, she murmured, her voice causing nearby stars to pulse in sympathetic rhythm. The Cosmic Council must be informed. Yet she hesitated. The council moved slowly, deliberated endlessly. By the time they reached consensus, this mortal could have torn reality asunder. No, this required immediate action. Direct intervention. Stella gathered her cosmic essence, compressing her vast consciousness into a form that could walk among mortals without incinerating them with her mere presence. Her body of stellar fire and cosmic radiation condensed, solidified, became flesh, extraordinary flesh, but flesh nonetheless. She would go to Earth herself. Assess this threat, and if necessary, extinguish it before the void could spread. As Stella prepared for her journey, she failed to notice the shadow that briefly dimmed the light of distant galaxies, a presence darker and older than even she. Watching the same disturbance with very different intentions. Vegeta's fist stopped inches from Goku's face. "Kakarot, what the hell is wrong with you?" The Saiyan prince demanded, lowering his arm. "You haven't blocked or dodged a single attack in 10 minutes. They stood in the gravity chamber at Capsule Corporation, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the red glow of warning lights. Goku had come seeking answers, but instead found himself distracted by the strange new awareness thrumming through his being. "Sorry, Vegeta." Goku rubbed the back of his neck. "I'm a little off today." "A little off?" Vegeta scoffed. "You're practically sleepwalking. What's going on?" Goku hesitated. How could he explain something he barely understood himself? "Something road happened during training this morning. I think I opened a hole." "A hole?" Vegeta crossed his arms. "Be more specific." "A hole in everything." Goku gestured vaguely. "Like I punched through reality itself." Vegeta's expression shifted from irritation to sharp interest. "Show me." "I don't know if I can do it on purpose. It just happened." "Try," Vegeta commanded. "Full power. Now." Goku nodded, centering himself. He drew upon his ki, feeling it surge through familiar pathways, then pushed beyond, reaching for that cold, vast sensation he'd touched on the mountain. Power erupted around him, his aura flaring golden as he transformed to Super Saiyan, then the electric blue of Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. The gravity room trembled, equipment straining under the pressure of his energy. "More," Vegeta urged, his own power rising in response. "Whatever you felt, find it again." Goku pushed deeper, past the limits he knew, into uncharted territory. His hair lengthened, his muscles bulged, his aura intensified, and then something shifted. The blue flame of his godly ki suddenly darkened at its edges, tendrils of something that wasn't quite black, wasn't quite purple, bleeding into the energy. "Vegeta," Goku gasped, his voice distorting. "Some things." The air in front of him split open. Unlike the small tear on the mountain, this was a gash in reality itself. 3 feet long and rippling with non-colors. Through it, Goku glimpsed the same nameless not-nothing, but this time, he felt it looking back. Kakarot, Vegeta shouted, but his voice seemed to come from impossibly far away. Close it, now. Goku reached for the tear, intending to seal it somehow, but his fingers sank into the nothingness. Cold beyond cold shot up his arm, and with it came knowledge, vast. Terrible knowledge of endless space, of the smallness of existence, of powers that predated the universe itself. He screamed, but no sound emerged. Instead, the tear widened, hungrily consuming the space around it. The gravity room's alarms shrieked as instruments detected the impossible, a localized absence of physical laws. Vegeta grabbed Goku's shoulders, yanking him backward. E-contact broke Goku's connection to the tear, and he collapsed, gasping, against his rival. Shut it down, Vegeta roared, his own power flaring protectively around them both. Whatever you're doing, stop it now. Goku clutched his head, trying to contain the flood of alien awareness. I don't know how. The tear pulsed, expanding with each heartbeat. Equipment began to vanish into it, not destroyed, but simply ceasing to exist where the not-nothing touched. The gravity room's reinforced walls groaned under the strain of containing something they were never designed to withstand. In desperation, Goku seized the lifeline of his oldest, most fundamental technique. Me. What are you doing? Vegeta hissed. Me. Blue light gathered between Goku's cupped hands, familiar and comforting in its normality. But as the energy coalesced, it too began to change, darkening around the edges with the same knot color that bordered the tear. The beam erupted from Goku's hands, but instead of striking the tear, it curved impossibly in midair, circling it like water around a drain. The Kamehameha, enhanced by Goku's godly ki and this new, unnamed power, created a boundary around the rift. The tear pulsed once more, then began to shrink, the energy of Goku's attack somehow forcing it closed. With a sound like a sigh, the rift sealed itself, leaving behind only a lingering chill and the acrid scent of ozone. Goku collapsed to his knees, power fading as he reverted to his base form. Sweat poured down his face, and his breath came in ragged gasps. Vegeta stood frozen, staring at the spot where the tear had been. For perhaps the first time in his life, the Prince of all Saiyans looked genuinely shaken. Kakarot, he said finally, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. What have you done? Goku shook his head, unable to answer. The alien awareness still hummed within him, connecting him to something vast and ancient and utterly beyond his comprehension. We need to talk to Whis. Vegeta decided, already moving toward the intercom to contact Bulma, and Beerus, and probably the Supreme Kai. Whatever that was, it wasn't normal Saiyan evolution. No, Goku agreed, looking at his hands. For a moment, they seemed to contain galaxies. It's something else, something older. As they left the damaged gravity room, neither Saiyan noticed the tiny, pinprick tear that remained hidden in the corner of the ceiling. Too small to trigger alarms, it pulsed gently, a silent beacon to powers far beyond Earth. The attack came without warning. Piccolo had been meditating at the lookout, floating cross-legged above the pristine white tiles, when his acute Namekian hearing detected a disturbance in the air. His eyes snapped open just as a blast of energy, not ki, but something else entirely, struck the ancient sanctuary. The lookout shuddered. Dend cried out in alarm, stumbling as tiles cracked beneath his feet. Mr. Popo's watering can clatter. Ed to the ground as he rushed to steady the young guardian. What was that? Dend gasped, clutching his staff. Piccolo was already moving, cape billowing as he flew to the edge of the platform. Below, Earth spread out in tranquil blues and greens, seemingly undisturbed. But the Namekian warrior's senses detected something approaching, something that moved like shadow given form, slipping between light and perception. We're under attack, he growled, shedding his weighted clothing with a practiced gesture. Dend, raise the lookout's barriers. Popo, alert the others. No sooner had the DS left his mouth than the attacker revealed itself. It rose from below the lookout's edge, a figure wrapped in what appeared to be strips of darkness, its form humanoid but wrong somehow, as though viewed through distorted glass. Where a face should have been, there was only a smooth, reflective surface that showed Piccolo his own grim expression. Identify yourself, Piccolo demanded, gathering ki in his palms. This sanctuary is protected. The figure tilted its head, the movement too fluid to be natural. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, bypassing the ears to resonate directly in the mind. The strong one, it said, the words carrying an impression of clinical assessment rather than conversation. Capacity. Significant. Threshold. Unknown. Testing required. Piccolo didn't wait for further explanation. Experience had taught him that creatures who spoke of testing rarely had benevolent intentions. He unleashed a special beam cannon, the spiral of energy lancing toward the intruder with enough force to penetrate mountains. The beam struck true, and passed through the figure as though it weren't there, continuing into the sky beyond. The creature remained untouched, its reflective face now showing Piccolo's attack speeding away. Conventional energy assault ineffective, it noted, as though making an entry in a log. Advancing to physical contact test. It moved with impossible speed, crossing the distance between them before Piccolo could react. A hand that wasn't quite solid, wasn't quite energy, grabbed his throat. Cold spread through the Namekian's body, numbing his limbs and clouding his thoughts. Through dimming vision, Piccolo saw the creature's reflective face ripple, showing not his own reflection now but something else, a tear in reality, and through it, stars being devoured by emptiness. With the last of his strength, Piccolo struck out, his fist connecting with the creature's midsection. To his surprise, the blow landed, sending the attacker skidding backward. The creature paused, seeming to reassess. Resistance exceeds parameters, it said. Sample collected. Further testing postponed. It began to sink through the floor of the lookout, the tiles rippling like water as it passed through solid matter. Piccolo launched himself forward, determined not to let it escape, but his hands closed on empty air as the creature vanished completely. What was that thing? Dend asked, hurrying to Piccolo's side to begin healing the burns that had appeared on the warrior's throat. Piccolo stared at the spot where the intruder had disappeared. I don't know, but it wasn't here to destroy, it was studying us. Testing our limits. But why? And what did it mean by sample collected? I don't know, Piccolo repeated, a rare note of unease in his voice. But I suspect we weren't the only ones it visited today. His suspicion proved correct when, minutes later, reports began coming in from across the planet. Krillin attacked at the police academy. Tien ambushed at his dojo. Even Gohan, confronted while lecturing at his university. Each described the same figure, the same clinical assessment, the same cold touch that seemed to drain more than just energy. And each reported the same cryptic statement before the creature departed, sample collected. Bulma's laboratory hummed WITH activity as screens displayed readings from the sensors she'd hastily deployed across Capsule Corporation. After Vegeta's urgent call, she dropped everything to analyze whatever phenomenon had occurred in the gravity room. These readings can't be right, she muttered, tucking a strand of blue hair behind her ear. According to this, the space inside that tear had negative mass. That's theoretically impossible. Apparently not, Vegeta replied grimly, arms crossed as he watched Goku sitting quietly in a corner, eyes closed in concentration. Whis stood nearby, his staff occasionally chiming as it detected disturbances beyond mortal perception. The angel's usually pleasant expression had given way to uncharacteristic seriousness. Most troubling, he murmured, tapping elegant fingers against his staff. I haven't sensed energy of this nature since before Lord Beerus's current cycle began. You know what this is? Bulma asked, swiveling her chair to face him. Not precisely, but I recognize the signature. Whis glanced at Goku with new interest. What we angels call the void primordial, the nothingness that existed before creation. It is not evil, per se, but it is hungry. It seeks to return all things to their original state of non-being. And somehow Kakarot is channeling it, Vegeta concluded. So it would seem, Whis agreed. Though how immortal, even one as exceptional as Goku, has accessed such fundamental cosmic energy is beyond even my understanding. Could it be related to Ultra Instinct? Bulma suggested. That connected him to divine energy pathways. Perhaps, Whis conceded, but this goes deeper than divine ki. This is the very stuff of uncreation. Across the room, Goku opened his eyes. It's getting stronger, he said simply. I can feel it growing inside me, like I'm becoming a gateway. Bulma's instruments shrieked in alarm as energy readings spiked. Around Goku, the air darkened, pinpricks of not light swirling around him like negative stars. Goku, control it, Bulma cried, backing away as her screens began to glitch, showing impossible data. I'm trying. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he fought to contain the surging power. It's like trying to hold back the ocean with my hands. Whis moved with angelic speed, placing his staff against Goku's chest. Divine light pulsed from the orb atop the staff, temporarily suppressing the void energy. This is merely a stopgap, Whis warned. The power is integrating with his being at a fundamental level. Soon, not even I will be able to contain it. Then what do we do? Vegeta demanded. We can't just let him become a walking apocalypse. We need to understand what's happening, Whis replied. And for that, we need expertise beyond my own. The angel closed his eyes briefly. Communicating across cosmic distances. I've requested assistance from. He never finished the sentence. The laboratory ceiling suddenly ignited with blinding light, forcing everyone but Whis to shield their eyes. The light coalesced, condensed, and then stepped forward as a woman, tall, regal, and radiating such power that the very air around her seemed to warp with the effort of containing her presence. Her skin glowed with the light of distant stars. Her hair, flowing in currents no earthly wind could explain, contained nebulae and cosmic fire. Her eyes held the death of suns and the birth of galaxies. She wore what appeared to be armor made of condensed starlight, and each step she took left momentary constellations shimmering in the air behind her. Whis, she acknowledged the angel with a slight nod. Your message was unnecessary. I was already en route. Lady Stella, Whis bowed, showing deference that shocked both Saiyans. You honor us with your presence. Though I confess, I was expecting the Supreme Kai. This matter is beyond the Kais, Stella replied, her voice carrying harmonics that made the laboratory's glass beakers vibrate. Her gaze fixed on Goku, narrowing with intensity that would have incinerated a lesser being. So, you are the mortal playing with forces beyond your comprehension. Goku stood, meeting her gaze without flinching. I'm not playing with anything. This is happening to me, not because of me. A distinction without a difference, Stella countered, circling him like a predator. The void primordial does not manifest randomly. It is drawn to compatible vessels, those with the capacity to contain emptiness without being consumed by it. She reached out, her fingertips stopping inches from Goku's chest. Even without contact, he gasped as warmth unlike anything he'd ever felt radiated from her hand, pushing back against the cold void energy within him. Interesting, she murmured. Your mortal shell should have been obliterated by now. Yet you adapt, you incorporate, just as you've done with divine ki and other powers throughout your life. Who are you? Bulma interrupted, finding her voice despite the overwhelming presence of the cosmic being. And what exactly is happening to Goku? Stella turned, seeming to notice the other occupants of the room for the first time. When she spoke again, Shimodu lated her voice to avoid shattering the laboratory's equipment. I am Stella, the star goddess, guardian of stellar creation and cosmic fire. She gestured to the darkness swirling around Goku. And, your friend is becoming something he was never meant to be, a mortal vessel for the void itself. Can you fix him? Vegeta asked bluntly. Stella's laughter was like distant supernovae. Fix? You misunderstand. This isn't damage, it's transformation. Your friend is ascending, becoming a cosmic entity. The void god. The what now? Goku blinked. I don't want to be any kind of god. I just want to be me. What you want is irrelevant. Stella said coldly. The process has begun and cannot be reversed. The only question is whether you will master this power or be consumed by it. And if he's consumed? Bulma asked quietly. Stella's expression darkened. Then I will be forced to eliminate him before he becomes a threat to this universe and all others. The temperature in the room dropped precipitously. Frost formed on the windows as void energy responded to Goku's sudden anger. No one's eliminating anyone, he said, his voice carrying new depths of authority that made even Whis raise an eyebrow. I've mastered every power I've ever encountered. This won't be different. Your confidence is admirable, Stella conceded, but naive. The void is not merely another form of energy. It is anti-existence itself. It unmakes, uncreates, And it will do the same to your mind, your memories, your very identity, unless you learn to channel it properly. Then teach me, Goku challenged, stepping closer to her. Despite his shorter stature, something about his presence now matched hers, light facing darkness, creation facing void, equal and opposite cosmic forces. If you know so much about it, show me how to control it. For a moment, the star goddess seemed taken aback by his directness. Few beings in the cosmos would dare address her so boldly. Yet instead of anger, a flicker of intrigue crossed her stellar features. Perhaps, she said finally. But not here. Your power in its raw state is too dangerous for this fragile realm. We must go somewhere. Your inevitable failures won't erase solar systems. He's not going anywhere alone with you, Vegeta stated flatly, moving to stand beside his rival. Not until we know your true intentions. Stella regarded the prince with the mild interest one might show an interesting insect. Your concern is noted, little Saiyan. But unnecessary. If I wished him destroyed, neither you nor he could prevent it. Lady Stella, Whis interjected smoothly. While I recognize your authority in cosmic matters, might I suggest a compromise? The void energy seems temporarily stabilized. Perhaps we could consult with Lord Beerus, the Supreme Kai, before removing Goku from Earth. Stella's gaze hardened, stars dying in her eyes. You overstep, Angel. This matter falls under my jurisdiction, not your destroyer's. The void primordial predates your kind by eons. Before Whis could respond, the laboratory door burst open. Piccolo strode in, followed by Gohan, both bearing evidence of recent combat. We have a problem, Piccolo announced. Then stopped short at the sight of the cosmic being. Who is? Long story, Bulma cut him off. What happened to you two? Gohan adjusted his glasses, which had been cracked in his encounter. We were attacked, all of us, Earth's strongest fighters, by some kind of scanning entity. It said it was collecting samples, Piccolo added, eyes never leaving Stella. Testing our limits. A shadow passed over Stella's luminous features. The void eclipses harbingers. They've already begun. The what? Several voices asked simultaneously. Stella turned back to Goku, urgency replacing her previous cold assessment. We have less time than I thought. The anomalies in your power have attracted attention, dangerous attention. There are entities that serve the void primordial's darkest aspects, seeking to use it as a weapon of total destruction rather than transformation. And you think they're targeting my friends to get to me? Goku's expression hardened with protective instinct. No, Stella corrected. They're assessing this world's defenses. The emergence of a new void god is a cosmic event of immense significance. Such transitions are vulnerable moments. Outside, the sky darkened unnaturally. Clouds swirling in patterns that defied meteorology. Thunder without lightning rumbled across the city. They're coming, Stella said simply. And you are not ready to face them. Goku looked at his friends, at Vegeta's stubborn scowl, Bulma's worried eyes, Gohan's determined stance, Piccolo's strategic calculation, Whis' uncharacteristic concern. Then back to Stella, the star goddess who offered knowledge but also threat. If I go with you, he said carefully, will my friends be safe? No, she answered honestly. But they will have a better chance than if you remain. Your power in its current state is a beacon in a vulnerability. I can teach you to control it, to shield it from those who would exploit it. Goku nodded slowly. Then I don't really have a choice. Goku, wait. Gohan stepped forward. We've faced cosmic threats before. We can handle this together. Not this time, son. Goku smiled, the expression oddly mature on his usually carefree face. This is different. I can feel it. Whatever's happening to me goes beyond anything we've dealt with before. Kakarot, Vegeta's voice held uncharacteristic emotion. Don't be a fool. This could be a trap. Maybe, Goku acknowledged, but my instincts say otherwise. And besides, he grinned, some of his old self shining through, when have I ever turned down a chance to learn from someone stronger than me? Before anyone could raise further objections, the laboratory windows imploded. Dark tendrils snaked through the openings, similar to the creatures that had attacked Earth's fighters, but larger. More substantial. Where they touched equipment, it crumbled to dust. They've found us. Stella's body flared with stellar fire. We must leave now. Go, Whis commanded. his staff glowing with angelic power as he moved to intercept the encroaching darkness. I will contain this incursion and inform Lord Beerus. Goku looked one last time at his friends and family. I'll be back, I promise. You'd better, Bulma told him fiercely. Or I'll invent an interdimensional portal just to come yell at you. Goku laughed, and in that moment of distraction, Stella seized his arm. Her touch was like grasping a star, brilliant and burning, yet somehow Goku's flesh didn't char. Instead, the void energy within him rose to meet her light, darkness and radiance intertwining. Brace yourself, mortal, she warned. Cosmic translation is disorienting. The laboratory, his friends, Earth itself, all dissolved into streams of light as Stella transported them across distances no instant transmission could cross. Goku's last glimpse was of Vegeta and Gohan moving to stand with Whis, facing the encroaching shadow tendrils with determined expressions. Then everything vanished in a supernova of light, and Goku felt himself stretched across the cosmos, atoms spinning away from each other before being violently reassembled in a place that had never known mortal footsteps. The Star Forge hung in the void between galaxies, a structure that defied conventional architecture. It appeared sometimes as a crystalline palace, sometimes as a living nebula, sometimes as geometric patterns of pure energy, shifting between forms as though reality itself couldn't decide how to perceive it. Within this impossible space, Goku materialized, collapsing to his knees as his senses overloaded. The transition had been unlike anything he'd experienced before, not the instantaneous jump of instant transmission, but a stretching across the fabric of space-time itself. Breathe, Stella instructed, standing effortlessly beside him. Here, in her domain, she appeared even more radiant, her humanoid form barely containing the cosmic power within. Your mortal senses will adjust momentarily. Where are we? Goku managed, fighting waves of nausea as his body struggled to accept that it now existed in a place where physical laws were mere suggestions. My sanctuary, Stella replied. The Star Forge, a realm between realms, where I create and maintain the stellar bodies of your universe. Goku forced himself to stand, swaying slightly as he took in his surroundings. They stood on something that resembled a floor, transparent as diamond but flowing like liquid wherever Stella's feet touched it. Above, below, around them, in every direction stretched a vista of stars, galaxies, nebulae. Cosmic phenomena that had no names in human language. And beyond those, the emptiness between. The void. Looking at it now, with his newly awakened senses, Goku realized it wasn't empty at all. It pulsed with potential, with uncreation that paradoxically promised new creation. It's beautiful, he whispered, genuinely awed despite all the wonders he'd witnessed in his life. Stella glanced at him, surprise flickering across her stellar features. Most mortals find the true face of Cosmos terrifying. I'm not most mortals, Goku replied with a hint of his old grin. No, she agreed, studying him with new interest. You are not. Perhaps that explains why the void chose you. She gestured, and the space around them shifted, focusing on a distant spiral galaxy. Your home, she explained. The Milky Way. Earth is there. A tiny pinprick of light flared briefly, now under attack by forces drawn to your emergence. Then we need to go back. Goku's protective instincts flared. My friends would die uselessly if you returned now, Stella cut him off. Your power is unstable, unfocused. You would be a liability, not an asset. But the Angel Whis is formidable, as is your destroyer god. They will contain the immediate threat. Her tone left no room for argument. Meanwhile, you will learn to master what you are becoming, so that when you do return, you can truly protect your world instead of endangering it. Goku wanted to protest, but the cold logic of her words struck home. He could feel the void energy within him, roiling and unpredictable. If he lost control on Earth, fine, he conceded reluctantly. Teach me, then, quickly. Stella's laughter rang out, causing nearby stars to pulse in rhythm. Quickly, mortal, what you're attempting to master typically takes eons. The last being to successfully contain the void primordial required 1,000 years of preparation. I'm a fast learner, Goku said simply. And I don't have 1,000 years. My friends don't even have a day. The star goddess studied him, her gaze penetrating to his core. What she saw there, determination, Yes, but also adaptability, intuitive understanding of energy that transcended formal knowledge, gave her pause. Perhaps, she said finally, your species has always been remarkably adept at evolution. And you, specifically, have demonstrated unusual capacity for power absorption and integration. She waved a hand, and the space around them reconfigured into something resembling a training arena, though one made of stellar material and cosmic energy rather than physical matter. We begin with the fundamental nature of the void, she announced. Not absence, as most believe, but foundation. Not emptiness, but potential. Not death, but the canvas upon which life is painted. She raised her hand, summoning a sphere of intense stellar light. Creation. The sphere pulsed with generative force, warm and vital. Then she gestured with her other hand, and darkness gathered. Not merely absence of light but something that seemed to absorb the very concept of illumination. And uncreation. Two forces, eternally balanced. The light and dark spheres began to orbit each other, forming a binary system that grew increasingly complex as they spun. The universe exists in the tension between these forces, Stella continued. Too much creation without void, matter without space, would collapse instantly into a singularity. Too much void without creation would prevent anything from ever existing at all. Goku watched, fascinated despite himself. And somehow I'm connected to the void part now. Not merely connected, Stella corrected. You are becoming its avatar, its god. Just as I embody stellar creation. But why me? Why now? That, she admitted, remains unclear. The void chooses its vessels according to criteria beyond even my understanding. Perhaps it recognized in you a similar nature, endlessly adaptive, constantly seeking greater challenges. Embodying limitless potential, the orbiting spheres of light and dark suddenly collapsed together, merging in a flash that momentarily blinded Goku. When his vision cleared, a perfect yin-yang symbol hung before him, constructed of starlight and void. Balance, Stella emphasized, that is what you must achieve. Not dominance over the void, nor submission to it, but partnership. Like learning to control Super Saiyan, Goku mused. Working with the power instead of fighting against it. A crude analogy, but essentially correct. Stella gestured, and the symbol dissolved. Now, reach within yourself. Find the cold center where the void energy gathers. Goku closed his eyes, focusing inward. Where his ki had always felt warm, vibrant, alive, this new power radiated cold, stillness, potential. Not evil. Goku had faced enough true evil to recognize it, but fundamentally different from any energy he'd wielded before. I feel it, he said quietly. Like a hole inside me that somehow contains everything. Good. Now, instead of suppressing it as you've been doing, invite it to expand, slowly, under your guidance. Goku took a deep breath, then, mentally opened himself to the void energy. Immediately, it surged upward, eager for release. Cold spread through his limbs, and he felt his body begin to change, not physically, but fundamentally, as though his very atoms were being rewritten with new information. Control, Stella reminded him sharply. Direction, not suppression. Gritting his teeth, Goku imposed his will on the rushing power. Instead of fighting it, he visualized channels, pathways for it to follow, similar to how he directed his ki, but adjusted for this new, strange force. To his surprise, the void energy responded, owing more smoothly as he worked with it rather than against it. The cold became less uncomfortable, more invigorating. His vision shifted, revealing spectrums beyond normal sight. The cosmos around him seemed more detailed, more intimate, as though he could perceive the very strings of reality that bound it together. Remarkable, Stella murmured, circling him as his aura manifested, no longer golden flame of Super Saiyan or the blue radiance of godly ki, but a deep, shifting purple-black that contained pinpricks of light like negative stars. Your adaptation rate exceeds all projections. Goku barely heard her, lost in the exhilarating sensation of new power flowing through him. It felt right somehow, as though he'd found a piece of himself he hadn't known was missing. With it came understanding, fragmented, incomplete, but growing, of cosmic structures beyond mortal comprehension. I can see, he whispered, eyes open but focused on something beyond physical reality. The spaces between atoms, the gaps between moments, the The blueprint of everything. Yes, Stella confirmed. That is the Void Primordial's gift, perception of the foundation upon which all existence is built. Goku reached out, curious to touch one of the gleaming strands of reality he now perceived. As his fingers neared it, the strand vibrated in anticipation, and alarm flashed across Stella's face. Not yet. She seized his wrist, her grip burning against his void-cooled skin. Direct manipulation of reality's structure requires finesse you have not yet mastered. The contact between them, void meeting creation, cold meeting heat, created a momentary flash of energy that sent both staggering backward. Where their skin had touched, strange patterns formed. On Goku's wrist, a spiral of starlight that slowly faded. On Stella's palm, a temporary darkening like a void handprint. They stared at each other, equally startled by the reaction. That was. Goku began. Unexpected. Stella finished, examining her palm with scientific curiosity. The resonance between our energies is stronger than theoretical models predicted. She stepped closer, scientific interest overriding her previous caution. Your transformation progresses faster than should be possible. Already your energy signature shifts from mortal to cosmic. It's as though. She trailed off, her expression troubled as she reached a conclusion that seemed to disturb her. As though what? Goku prompted. As though you were always meant for this, she said finally. As though your entire life, every battle, every transformation, every brush with death and rebirth, was preparation for becoming the Void God. The statement hung between them, heavy with implication. Goku's mind flashed through his life's journey, Fr. Backwoods child to universal defender, each challenge pushing him to break limits that should have been insurmountable. Destiny, huh, he chuckled, the sound oddly distorted by his partial transformation. Never put much stock in that. Quote, nor I, Stella admitted, her stellar eyes narrowing. Which makes this conjunction all the more suspicious. Before Goku could question her meaning, a tremor ran through the Star Forge. The cosmic architecture around them shuddered, stars in the distant view flickering as though momentarily extinguished. Stella's expression hardened. They've found us sooner than expected. The shadow things from Earth. They're masters, she corrected grimly. The Void Eclipse's vanguard, entities that serve the destructive aspect of the Void rather than its generative potential. The space around them darkened as something massive eclipsed the light of distant galaxies. A pressure built in the cosmic atmosphere, the sense of ancient malevolence approaching. Stella's form flared with defensive light, her humanoid appearance becoming more abstract as she prepared for combat. Your training must accelerate. We have no time for gradual adaptation. What do I need to do? Goku asked, instinctively dropping into a fighting stance despite facing an enemy beyond physical form. Embrace the void completely, Stella instructed. Don't resist any aspect of it. Become what you are becoming. But you said that was dangerous, that I could lose myself. The greater danger now is being caught half transformed. Her light intensified as the darkness pressing against the Star Forge's boundaries grew. I will shield you during the transition. But you must surrender to the process fully. Goku hesitated only briefly. Throughout his life, progress had often come through risk. Through pushing beyond perceived limits into unknown territory. This would be no different, just on a cosmic scale. All right, he agreed, straightening from his combat stance. What do I do? Close your eyes, Stella instructed, moving to stand before him. Focus on the void energy within. Instead of channeling it, become it. Let it rewrite you completely. Goku obeyed, closing his eyes and turning his awareness inward. The cold core of void energy pulsed in response, eager for total integration. I will anchor your identity, Stella promised, placing her burning hands on either side of his face. The contact should have been painful, cosmic fire meeting void cold, but instead created a perfect insulation between opposing forces. No matter how far you travel into the void, follow my light back. Goku nodded once, then surrendered. The void energy surged upward, no longer constrained by his cautious channeling. It flooded every cell, every atom, converting Hi's very being from physical matter to something else entirely, a state of existence that incorporated both being and non-being simultaneously. Pain beyond pain engulfed him as his mortal form struggled against fundamental transformation. Goku might have screamed, but sound had no meaning in the space between existence. His consciousness stretched, thinned, threatened to dissipate entirely into the infinite void. Through it all, Stella's burning touch anchored him, her light a beacon preventing his complete dissolution. As promised, she held his identity intact while everything else changed. Outside, in what might still be called reality, Goku's body shifted, flickered, seemed momentarily to contain infinite space within its boundaries. His hair darkened beyond black, becoming a color that absorbed light rather than merely failing to reflect it. His eyes opened, revealing irises that contained galaxies in negative. Power radiated from him in waves, not the familiar pressure of ki, but something more fundamental. A distortion in the fabric of reality itself. Where his feet touched the ground, space curved visibly. Stella maintained her grip on his face, her own power flaring to match his transformation. Darkness and light intertwined around them, creation and uncreation in perfect, temporary balance. Finally, the metamorphosis stabilized. Goku stood transformed, still recognizably himself, yet fundamentally altered. His GI had changed to match his new nature, the orange fabric replaced by something that seemed woven from condensed darkness, accented with lines of cosmic Li. GHT that traced patterns reminiscent of celestial orbits. Goku, Stella questioned, slowly lowering her hands from his face. He blinked, adjusting to new perception that showed him not just physical reality but the spaces between. The cosmic scaffolding upon which existence was constructed. I'm still here, he confirmed, his voice deeper, resonating with new harmonics. But also, more, street. Ella studied him with critical assessment. The transformation is incomplete, as it must be if you are to retain your original identity. But it has progressed far enough. She gestured toward the boundary of the Star Forge, where darkness pressed against light in obvious siege. Now we must face our visitors. Goku turned, seeing clearly now what approached, entities composed of corrupted void energy. Their forms twisted into patterns that offended the cosmic order. Unlike the pure potential of the void primordial that now flowed through him, these beings channeled only its entropic aspect, its hunger for uncreation. I sense them, he said quietly. They're wrong somehow, using the void as a weapon instead of a canvas. Yes, Stella confirmed, pleased by his intuitive understanding. The void eclipse corrupts the void's true nature, seeking to unmake creation entirely rather than maintain the necessary balance. The largest entity pressed against the Star Forge's boundary, IT's form resembling a humanoid figure composed of imploding galaxies. Where its face should have been, a spiral of antimatter slowly rotated. The vessel emerges, it communicated, its thoughts bypa. SSING normal speech to resonate directly in their minds. Surrender it to us, Star Weaver. The void belongs to Eclipse. The void belongs to no one, Stella replied, her voice carrying the authority of eons. And this vessel has chosen his own path. The entity seemed to grow larger, darkness spreading across the Star Forge's perimeter. Then both shall be unmade. It struck without further warning. Tendrils of corrupted void energy lashing through the boundary like solar flares in reverse, sucking light and matter into non-existence where they touched. Stella countered with beams of concentrated stellar fire, her attacks carving paths through the encroaching darkness. But for every tendril she severed, two more pressed forward. Goku, she called, maintaining her defense. Use your power. Feel its natural opposition to this corruption. Goku stood momentarily frozen, overwhelmed by competing instincts. Part of him, the void energy now integrated with his being, recognized the attackers as kin. Drawn from the same primordial source as his new power. Yet another part, his essential self, his lifetime as protector and defender, recoiled from their wrongness. A tendril of darkness snaked toward him, faster than even his enhanced perception could track. It struck his chest, and passed through harmlessly, absorbed by his own void nature. They can't hurt me, he realized aloud. Not directly, Stella agreed. Deflecting another attack, your energies are too similar. But they can still corrupt your transformation, twist your nature to match theirs if you allow it. The central entity focused its attention fully on Goku now. Brother, it communicated. Join us. Embrace true purpose. All creation returns to void. We merely accelerate inevitable. The words carried seductive resonance, playing upon the void energy within him. For a moment, Goku felt it respond, a part of him agreeing with the entity's nihilistic philosophy. Then he remembered Earth, his family, his friends, the countless lives he'd protected throughout his existence. The joy he'd found not in destruction but in preservation, in the potential of life to grow and evolve and surpass its limits. That's not what the void is for, he responded, certainty filling him as he intuited the truth through his new cosmic awareness. It's not an ending, it's possibility, the space where anything can happen. He reached within, connecting fully to his transformed nature. The void energy responded eagerly, no longer fighting his direction but amplifying his will. Around him, space itself seemed to bend inward, reality curving toward his gravity well of potential. You're using it wrong, he told the entity, his voice carrying new authority, not learned but inherent to what he was becoming. And I won't let you near my home. He raised his hand, and for the first time unleashed his power offensively. Not a ki blast, not a kamehameha, but something new, a concentrated point of void energy that collapsed space around it, creating a localized singularity that pulled the corruption toward it, compressing it into harmlessness. The entity recoiled, clearly surprised by the counter. Impossible. No new vessel master's void collapsed so quickly. You don't know who you're dealing with, Goku replied, a hint of his old fighting spirit shining through his transformed state. I'm Son Goku, and fast learning is kind of my thing. Beside him, Stella's surprise was equally evident, though she quickly masked it behind renewed offensive action. Together, they pushed back against the invaders, her attacks sundering his absorbing and neutralizing. The entity retreated slightly, reassessing. Unexpected development. Primary strategy invalidated. Initiating secondary protocol. Darkness surrounding the Star Forge suddenly contracted, gathering itself into a tight sphere of concentrated anti-existence. Then, instead of pressing its attack, it simply vanished, not destroyed, but withdrawn to some other plane of reality. They're retreating, Goku asked, suspicion clear in his voice. No, Stella's expression was grim. Changing tactics. They recognize they cannot take you by force in your current state. Then what? Earth, she said simply. They will target your anchors to humanity. Your emotional connections. Your loved ones. Cold understanding washed through him. They're going after my family. My friends. Yes. To draw you out. To force you to extend yourself before your transformation stabilizes. Goku's expression hardened, determination replacing confusion. Then we go back. Now. It's too soon, Stella protested. Your control is rudimentary at best. In combat, you could lose yourself entirely to the void. I don't have a choice, Goku countered. I won't let them hurt the people I care about while I hide here learning cosmic theory. Their eyes met. Stellar fire against void depths, neither willing to yield. Then, surprisingly, Stella's expression softened. You truly are unlike any vessel the void has chosen before, she observed. Most shed their mortal connections immediately, seeing them as limitations to transcend. That's not who I am, Goku said simply. My connections don't limit my power. They give it purpose. For the first time, Stella smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her severe beauty into something almost warm. Perhaps that is why the void chose you. A new approach for a new cosmic cycle. She raised her hand, cosmic energy gathering as she prepared for translocation. Very well, we return to Earth. But remember, your transformation remains incomplete. Your power, unstable. In the heat of battle, maintain your core identity at all costs. Goku nodded, already focusing on Earth, on the Ki signatures of his friends and family, still detectable across the cosmic distance through his enhanced perception. I won't forget who I am, he promised. I never have before. Stella gave him one last, measuring look. We shall see, she said softly. Then, with a gesture, she opened a pathway across the cosmos. Together, the nascent void god and the star goddess stepped through, racing to me. At a thread already descending upon an unsuspecting Earth. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Stars in the Darkness. They materialized in chaos. West City burned, not with ordinary fire, but with strange, inverted flames that consumed light rather than emitted it. Buildings stood half erased, their structures partially unmade as though reality itself had forgotten their existence. Citizens ran screaming, ing through streets that occasionally rippled like disturbed water, space-time fabric straining under unnatural pressure. Goku staggered as his feet touched Earth again, his transformation wavering with the shock of return. The familiar weight of his homeworld's gravity, the scent of its atmosphere, both felt alien to his newly cosmic senses. For a disorienting moment, he existed in two states, the Saiyan warrior who had defended this planet countless times, and the nascent cosmic entity who perceived it as merely one mote in an infinite universe. Focus, Stella commanded, her radiance dimmed. To avoid further destabilizing the damaged reality around them. Your connection to this world anchors your humanity. Use it. Goku nodded, forcing his perceptions to narrow, to focus on the immediate rather than the infinite. The void energy within him protested, wanting to expand beyond mortal limitations, but he contained it through sheer willpower. What happened here? He asked, voice high. Chi with controlled rage as he took in the devastation. The void eclipses harbingers, Stella replied grimly. This is merely the beginning. A taste of what they intend for all existence. A familiar energy signature flared nearby, Vegeta. His power level fluctuating wildly as though in desperate combat. Without hesitation, Goku fixed on his rival's location and teleported, his movement no longer the precise jump of instant transmission but a ripple through the fabric of space itself. Stella followed, her cosmic transit leaving momentary constellations hanging in the air behind her. They erged at Capsule Corporation, or what remained of it. The main dome had collapsed inward, its structure partially erased by void energy. In the courtyard, Vegeta stood alone against three attackers, entities similar to those that had besieged the Star Forge, but smaller, more focused in form. They resembled humanoid shadows with constantly shifting features, their bodies emitting the same anti-light that now consumed parts of the city. Vegeta had ascended to his highest form, blue godly ki blazing around him as he fought with desperate fury. But his attacks passed through the entities with minimal effect. While each blow they landed left portions of his armor simply unmade, erased from existence. Vegeta, Goku called, instinctively reaching for his friend. The Saiyan prince turned, shock registering on his battered face. Kakarot, what the hell happened to? He never finished the sentence. One of the shadow entities seized the moment of distraction, driving a tendril of darkness through Vegeta's shoulder. The prince screamed, not in ordinary pain, but in existential horror as part of his very being began to unravel, reality forgetting his existence where the corruption touched. No, Goku's control slipped, void energy erupted around him, his half-complete transformation surging forward in response to his rage. In an instant, he crossed the distance to Vegeta, seized the Sha Dao entity by what passed for its throat, and squeezed. The creature struggled, its form rippling against his grip. But unlike Vegeta's attacks, Goku's touch affected it, his void energy recognizing I's corrupted kin and asserting dominance. The entity shuddered, then imploded, collapsing into itself until nothing remained but a pinpoint of darkness that winked out of existence. The remaining shadows paused, recalculating their approach as they registered the new threat. Void vessel, they communicated in unison, their thoughts bypassing normal speech to echo directly in Goku's mind. Join or be unmade. Get away from my friend, Goku replied, his voice carrying new depths of authority that made the very air vibrate. The entities attacked simultaneously, tendrils of anti-light shing toward him from multiple directions. Goku didn't dodge. Instead, he stood his ground, allowing his void nature to manifest fully. The attacks passed through him harmlessly, absorbed by his similar energy signature. Then he countered. No martial arts technique, no ki blast, no named attack. Simply raw void manipulation, space folding around the entities, compressing, containing. They struggled against his hold, their forms distorting as they attempted to phase through dimensions. They're trying to escape, Stella warned, gliding to Vegeta's side to examine his wound with critical expertise. Don't let them. They'll return with reinforcements. Goku nodded grimly. With a gesture that seemed to bend light itself, he closed his fist. Reality responded, the space containing the shadow entities collapsing to a singularity. They imploded silently, their essence compressed beyond the point of existence. The moment they vanished, Goku rushed to Vegeta, his transformation receding slightly as concern overshadowed rage. How bad is it? He asked Stella, who was examining the wound with her star-bright hands hovering over the unraveling flesh. Critical, she replied without sentiment. The corruption spreads. If not contained, it will erase him entirely from this timeline. Vegeta, despite his injury, maintained consciousness through sheer stubborn will. His eyes fixed on Goku, widening at his rival's transformed appearance. "What happened to you?" he managed, voice strained with the effort of holding himself together, literally. "Long story," Goku replied, attempting a reassuring smile that didn't quite work on his altered features. "We need to heal you first. Can you?" he asked Stella directly. The star goddess frowned. "My domain is creation, not restoration. I can temporarily halt the spread. But I can help with that." The new voice, feminine, calm, with strange harmonic overtones, came from behind them. All three turned to see a figure stepping out of what appeared to be a tear in the air itself, not the jagged wound of void energy, but a precise, deliberate opening between moments. She was tall, slender, with flowing lavender hair that defied gravity, floating both upward and backward as though time itself couldn't decide which direction it should fall. Her eyes shifted colors with each blink, cycling through shades that had no names in human language. She wore robes of deep purple accented with celestial patterns that seemed to move when viewed peripherally, and carried a staff topped with an hourglass containing what looked like miniature galaxies instead of sand. "Chronoa," Stella acknowledged with a slight inclination of her head. "Your arrival is timely. That is rather my specialty," the newcomer replied with the faintest smile. Her gaze shifted to Goku, and something like wonder crossed her features. "So it's true. A new void god emerges." Before Goku could respond, Vegeta groaned, the unraveling of his shoulder accelerating. Explanations later, Chronoa stated briskly. "First, we stabilize your friend." She knelt beside Vegeta, her staff hovering horizontally over his wound. The hourglass began to spin, its contents flowing against gravity. "What I'm about to do," she explained to Vegeta directly, "is rewind your personal timeline to a point before the corruption touched you. It will be disorienting." The prince managed a pained snort. "Just do it, woman." Chronoa nodded, then closed her eyes in concentration. The air around Vegeta's wound began to shimmer, reality itself seeming to run backward like film in reverse. The unraveled portions of his shoulder slowly reconstituted, matter and energy returning from whatever void had claimed them. Vegeta's back arched in silent agony, his teeth clenched so hard they threatened to crack. The process, while healing, clearly caused its own kind of pain, the trauma of having one's timeline forcibly manipulated. Finally, the shimmer faded. Vegeta collapsed back, gasping but intact, his shoulder whole again. The corruption was gone, erased from his timeline as though it had never occurred. "There," Chronoa said, satisfaction evident in her tone as she stood. "Localized temporal restoration, one of my more challenging techniques." Vegeta sat up slowly, flexing his restored arm with cautious amazement. His gaze moved from Chronoa to Stella, then finally settled on Goku, taking in his rival's transformed appearance with narrowed eyes. "You look ridiculous, Kakarot," he stated flatly. Goku blinked, then burst into laughter, genuine, familiar laughter that momentarily reduced his cosmic aspect, allowing his original self to shine through. "Good to see you too, Vegeta." The moment of levity passed quickly as distant explosions reminded them of the ongoing crisis. Goku helped Vegeta to his feet, his expression sobering. "The others?" he asked urgently. "Scattered," Vegeta replied, already regaining his composure. "Defending different sectors. These shadow things attacked simultaneously across the planet. Whis and Lord Beerus are dealing with the largest concentration in North City. And my family, safe, last I heard. Gohan took them to the lookout. Dend created some kind of divine barrier that seems to slow the corruption." Relief washed through Goku, temporarily stabilizing his fluctuating transformation. "Then we need a plan. These aren't ordinary enemies we can just punch until they stay down." "Indeed not," Chronoa agreed, her staff tapping rhythmically against the ground. "The void eclipses harbingers exist partially outside normal time-space. Their attacks don't just destroy, they erase, removing their targets from the causal timeline altogether. Which is why your restoration technique worked," Stella noted, studying the Time Mistress with new appreciation. Precisely. Chronoa turned to Goku, her color-shifting eyes analyzing his transformed state. Your emergence has triggered a cosmic crisis. Is point, a nexus in the timeline where multiple futures converge and collapse. I've been monitoring the disruptions from my time nest, but when the probability matrices began unraveling completely. She shook her head. Direct intervention became necessary. So you're here to help? Goku asked hopefully. I'm here to preserve the integrity of this timeline, Chronoa corrected. Which may or am I not align with what you consider help? Vegeta snorted. Typical cosmic entity double speak. Chronoa raised an elegant eyebrow at him. Would you prefer I lied about my motivations, Prince Vegeta? Before the exchange could escalate, Goku intervened. Right now, our goals align. Stop these shadow things, protect Earth, prevent whatever the Void Eclipse is planning. Indeed, Stella agreed. Though your training remains incomplete, Goku, you've accessed perhaps a fraction of the Void God's potential. A fraction seems to be enough for now, he countered, gesturing to where he'd eliminated the attackers. I could feel it. They recognized my power, but they didn't expect me to be able to use it against them. A temporary advantage, Stella cautioned. The Void Eclipse will adapt its strategy now that it's aware of your progress. Another explosion rocked the city, closer this time. Goku's enhanced senses detected dozens of shadow entities converging on their location, drawn by the concentration of cosmic power. We need to move, he decided. Find the others, coordinate our defense. The lookout would be the logical gathering point, Vegeta suggested. If Den's barrier is effective against these things. Quote. Goku nodded, then turned to the two cosmic entities. Can you both transport yourselves there, or should I? We can manage, Chronoa interrupted with a touch of amusement. Contrary to what you might think, cosmic entities are quite adept at transportation. Right. Goku smiled sheepishly, then placed his hand on Vegeta's shoulder. See you there. He focused, reaching for the lookout with senses that now perceived space as a malleable medium rather than a fixed dimension. Reality bent around them, and they vanished, not with the characteristic sound of instant transmission, but with a subtle folding of space that left momentary darkness in their wake. Stella and Chronoa exchanged glances. His adaptation rate is unprecedented, Chronoa observed. The timeline fluctuations around him are like nothing I've ever monitored. Yes, Stella agreed, her stellar eyes troubled. Which raises the question, why him, and why now? You suspect manipulation. I suspect nothing is coincidental when it comes to the emergence of a new Void God. Stella's form shimmered as she prepared for cosmic transit. Especially not with the Void Eclipse rising simultaneously. Chronoa nodded, her own form beginning to blur between moments. Then perhaps we should consider who benefits from this particular convergence. Neither spoke the obvious answer as they departed, each in their own manner. Stella dissolving into stellar light that shot skyward, Chronoa stepping sideways through a tear in time that sealed seamlessly behind her. Above the ruined cityscape, something watched from the space between dimensions, a presence darker than shadow, older than time, patient beyond mortal comprehension. It observed the departure of the cosmic entities with what might have been satisfaction. Had it been capable of such an emotion? Everything proceeded according to design. The lookout had changed. Den stood at its center, staff planted firmly against the tiles. Emerald skin gleaming with sweat as he maintained a protective dome that encompassed the entire sanctuary. The barrier wasn't visible to ordinary sight, but to Goku's enhanced perception. It shimmered with divine energy, a thin membrane separating the lookout from the corrupting influence spreading across Earth. Within this protection gathered Earth's defenders. Gohan and Piccolo stood near Den, lending their energy to strengthen the barrier. Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha tended to injuries or distributed senzu beams to those who had already faced the shadow entities. Android 18 maintained a vigilant watch at the perimeter, her artificial senses seemingly less affected by the reality distortions than her organic counterparts. Chi-Chi and Bulma huddled with the younger children, Goten, Trunks, Marin, Pan, their expressions tight with the strain of maintaining calm for the little one's sake. Master Roshi sat cross-legged nearby, his usual joviality replaced by the grave seriousness of a martial arts master who recognized a threat beyond ordinary comprehension. All activity ceased when Goku and Vegeta materialized. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. They simply stared at Goku's transformed appearance, the void dark GI with its cosmic accents, the eyes that contained negative stars, the subtle distortion of reality around his form. It was Gohan who broke the silence, stepping forward with a mixture of relief and uncertainty on his face. "Dad," Goku smiled, deliberately softening his cosmic aspect to appear more like his old self. "It's me, son, just with some upgrades." Chi-Chi pushed through the group, her expression cycling rapidly through shock, relief, and finally settling on indignation, her default response to situations beyond her control. "Son Goku," she declared, hands on hips. "What have you gotten yourself into this time?" The familiar scolding, so mundane amid cosmic crisis, startled a laugh from Goku. Some tension in the air dissipated, and suddenly he was surrounded by family and friends, their initial wariness giving way to relief at his return. "You look different, Dad," Goten observed, circling his father with childlike curiosity rather than fear. "Your clothes are all weird and space-y." "Yeah," Goku agreed, ruffling his younger son's hair. "It's a long story, which will have to wait," Piccolo interjected, his sharp yes moving past Goku to the empty air where, moments later, Stella and Chronoa materialized in their respective fashions. "I see you've brought company." Introductions were made quickly, the gravity of the situation preventing extended explanations. The assembled fighters regarded the cosmic entities with mixtures of awe, suspicion, and, in Master Roshi's case, poorly concealed appreciation for their feminine forms. "So let me get this straight," Bulma summarized after Goku provided the briefest possible explanation of his transformation. "You're becoming some kind of void god, and these Addo things are attacking Earth because of it." "That's the simple version." "Yes," Stella confirmed, her radiance dimmed to avoid overwhelming the mortals present. "Typical," Chi-Chi muttered. "Just when I thought you'd settled down to a normal life." "Mom," Gohan interjected gently, "I don't think normal has ever really applied to Dad." "Indeed not," Chronoa agreed, her color-shifting eyes scanning each person present as though reading their personal timelines. "Son Goku has been a nexus of probability disruption since birth. His entire existence represents a statistical anomaly in the cosmic ledger." "Is that good?" Krillin asked hesitantly. "It simply is," Chronoa replied with elegant neutrality. "Though it does explain why the Void Primordial selected him as vessel." Fascinating as this cosmic metaphysics lecture is, Vegeta cut in impatiently, "we have more immediate concerns. Those shadow creatures are systematically erasing chunks of the planet, and Den's barrier won't hold forever." The young Namekian guardian nodded in confirmation, strain evident on his features. "Whatever energy they're using, it's antithetical to creation itself. I can feel it eating through my divine protection. The void eclipse seeks to unmake reality," Stella explained, pacing the perimeter of the lookout with solar grace. "Its harbingers are merely the first wave, probes tase Ting Earth's defenses while their master gathers strength." "And what exactly is this void eclipse?" Piccolo demanded, his strategic mind requiring clear information about their enemy. Stella and Chronoa exchanged glances, an entire conversation passing between them in that single look. Finally, Stella nodded, and Chronoa stepped forward, her staff tapping the lookout's tiles. "Perhaps it would be easier to show you," the Time Mistress suggested. She raised her staff, the hourglass atop it beginning to rotate. The space above the lookout shimmered, then resolved into what appeared to be a three-dimensional projection, but Goku, with his enhanced senses, recognized it as something more profound, an actual window into the timestream itself. Through this temporal aperture, they witnessed a vision of the distant past. A cosmos younger than the current one, stars still in their infancy. Within this nascent universe, two forces manifested, brilliant light on one side, represented by Fig. Yours similar to Stella but distinct in their particulars, absolute void on the other, entities of nothingness that somehow still maintained identity. "In the beginning," Chronoa narrated, her voice acting on the cadence of a historian reciting ancient records, "there was balance. Creation and uncreation, existence and void, woven together in the cosmic dance. Neither force sought dominance over the other, understanding their mutual necessity. The vision shifted, showing the cosmos developing, galaxies forming, life evolving across countless worlds. But as creation flourished, Something changed. The projection darkened, showing a disturbance in the void forces, a corruption spreading like infection through their ranks. A faction arose among the void entities, led by one who called itself Eclipse. They believed creation had grown too dominant, too expansive, that the natural order demanded rebalancing through widespread uncreation. The vision showed cosmic war, star gods and loyal void entities united against Eclipse and its corrupted followers. The battle raged across entire galactic clusters, each clash erasing or creating cosmic structures. The first cosmic war ended in stalemate, Chronoa continued. Eclipse and its followers were contained but not destroyed. Such entities can never be truly unmade, only transformed. They were sealed in a pocket dimension beyond conventional space-time, bound by constraints woven from both creative and void energies. The vision faded, returning to the present. Chronoa lowered her staff, the temporal window closing. For eons, the seal held. Stella took up the narrative. But recently, by cosmic standards, it began to weaken. The natural cycle of universal death and rebirth has been disrupted too many times in this reality. She glanced meaningfully at the assembled fighters, many of whom had participated in those disruptions through their various cosmic adventures. And now Eclipse is free, Goku concluded, understanding dawning. That's why the Void chose me now. It needs a new champion to restore balance. That is our working theory, Chronoa confirmed. Though why it selected a mortal rather than elevating one of the existing void entities remains puzzling. Perhaps because mortals understand the value of creation more intimately, Gohan suggested thoughtfully. We live such brief lives compared to cosmic entities. We know how precious each moment is. Stella studied the half-Saiyan scholar with new interest. A compelling hypothesis. The void primordial may indeed seek a champion who values Tian even while wielding the power of uncreation. A tremor shook the lookout, the barrier around it flickering momentarily. Den staggered, and Piccolo moved quickly to support him. Theory will have to wait. The Namekian warrior growled. They've found us. Goku moved to the edge of the platform, his void-enhanced senses penetrating the divine barrier to perceive what approached. What he chilled him despite his growing cosmic nature. The shadow entities had multiplied, hundreds now swarming upward toward the lookout like a reverse waterfall of darkness. But behind them came something else, a larger presence. Its form still indistinct but radiating such concentrated anti-existence that reality itself warped around it. We need a plan, he said, turning back to the others. Something more than just fighting these things one by one. I might have an idea, Bulma interjected, her scientific mind already processing possibilities. These entities manipulate void energy, right? The same fundamental force Goku now controls. Essentially, yes, Stella confirmed. Though corrupted into purely destructive application. Then perhaps we can create a resonance trap, the scientist continued, warming to her concept. If Goku can generate a stable void energy matrix, we might be able to tune it to attract and contain the shadow entities, like using a magnet to gather iron filings. Interesting, Chrono amused, tapping her staff thoughtfully. Combined with temporal stasis, such a construct might indeed function as a temporary containment system. I can contribute stellar energy to stabilize the matrix boundaries, Stella added, building on the idea. Creation containing uncreation, a microcosm of cosmic balance. Great, Vegeta cut in dryly. The three of you can build your cosmic science project. What about the rest of us? Defense, Goku said firmly. These shadow things might be immune to regular ki attacks, but they can still be slowed down, contained. We need to buy time for Bulma's plan to work. And what about that? Piccolo nodded toward the larger presence still ascending toward them. Whatever's coming behind the shadow swarm feels different. It is, Stella confirmed grimly. A void lieutenant, one of Eclipse's direct subordinates. Far more dangerous than the Harbingers. Goku's expression hardened with determination. I'll handle it, Goku, Stella cautioned. Your transformation remains incomplete. Facing a void lieutenant in your current state is risky, I know, he finished for her. But I'm the only one here with the right kind of power to fight it directly. His eyes met hers, no longer the innocent gaze of a Saiyan warrior but something deeper, carrying new wisdom alongside his characteristic determination. Yo, you focus on the containment system with Bulma and Chronoa. Trust me to handle the lieutenant. Something passed between them in that moment, cosmic entities recognizing each other as equals despite their different natures. Stella nodded once, accepting his decision. Very well, but do not engage in prolonged combat. Void lieutenants can corrupt other void wielders through sustained contact. Hit hard, end it fast. Got it. Goku grinned, some of his old battle enthusiasm shining through his transformed features. That's always been my style anyway. Plans formed quickly after that, the defenders organizing into teams. Gohan, Piccolo, and Android 18 would guard the perimeter, preventing any shadow entities from reaching Bulma and the cosmic entities as they constructed the containment system. Vegeta, Krillin, Tien, and Yamcha would form mobile strike teams, disrupting the Shadow Swarm's coordination. Master Roshi would remain with Chi-Chi and the children, his experience with Energy M. Manipulation providing a last line of defense. As the others prepared, Goku stood apart, centered in his power. The void energy within him had stabilized somewhat since his return to Earth, integrating more naturally with his being. He could feel it responding to his will, not fighting against him now, but amplifying his intentions. A hand touched his shoulder, interrupting his concentration. He turned to find Gohan standing beside him, concern evident behind his scholarly glasses. "Dad," he said quietly, "are you sure about this? You've only had this power for what, a day? And you're going to face one of these lieutenant things alone." Goku smiled, reaching up to clasp his son's hand. "I've always learned best in the middle of a fight. You know that." "Yes, but this isn't like training with King Kai or even Whis." Gohan's brow furrowed. "This is cosmic power on a scale we've never encountered before. Which means I'll probably learn even faster," Goku replied with characteristic optimism. His expression softened. "I'll be careful, Gohan. I promise. This power, it feels different, but not wrong. Like it was waiting for me somehow." Before Gohan could respond, another tremor shook the lookout, stronger this time. Dend cried out as cracks appeared in his divine barrier, dark tendrils beginning to seep through. "They're breaking through," Piccolo shouted, moving to defend the young guardian. "Everyone to positions," Goku commanded, his voice carrying natural authority enhanced by his cosmic transformation. "It's time." As the defenders rushed to their assigned tasks, Goku stepped to the very edge of the lookout. Below, the Shadow Swarm had nearly reached them, their anti-light consuming the very atmosphere as they ascended. And behind them, now clearly visible, came the Void Lieutenant. Unlike its smaller harbingers, the lieutenant possessed distinct form, a towering humanoid figure composed of compressed darkness, its proportions elegant yet wrong in subtle ways that defied anatomical logic. It wore armor that seemed made from imploded stars, and its face was a smooth reflective surface that showed not the viewer's reflection but glimpses of erased realities. Goku took a deep breath, centering himself in both his Saiyan heritage and his emerging cosmic nature. Then he stepped off the edge of the lookout, dropping directly toward the ascending threat. As he fell, he embraced the void energy fully, his transformation deepening. The air around him darkened, space itself seeming to bend toward his passage. His GI rippled with cosmic patterns, and in his eyes, galaxies spun in negative. The Shadow Swarm sensed his approach and shifted, momentarily hesitating before surging upward with renewed intensity. The lieutenant paused, its featureless face turning upward to track Goku's descent. They met halfway between Earth and Lookout, void meeting void in a clash that rippled through reality itself. The impact sent shockwaves across the stratosphere, clouds dissipating in perfect circles from the point of contact. Goku had led with a punch infused with void energy, not to damage the lieutenant directly, which might prove impossible given their similar natures, but to create a localized reality distortion that would disrupt its form. The strategy worked, partially. The lieutenant's elegant shape wavered, portions of it temporarily losing cohesion. But it recovered quickly, its voice bypassing conventional sound to resonate directly in Goku's mind. "Interesting approach, young god," it communicated, the mental voice carrying eons of cold calculation. "Your instructors have taught you well, but your understanding remains incomplete." It counterattacked, not with physical blows but with reality manipulation, the space around Goku suddenly compressing, attempting to crush him between dimensions. He responded instinctively, pushing back with his own void energy, creating a buffer zone where he could still exist normally. Maybe, Goku acknowledged, circling his opponent as they both hovered in the upper atmosphere. But I'm a fast learner. To demonstrate, he gathered void energy between his palms, mimicking the motion of his signature Kamehameha. But channeling something far different. The energy coalesced, not as light but as its opposite, a concentrated point of anti-existence that bent light around it like a black hole in miniature. The void collapse technique, the lieutenant observed with what might have been approval. Impressive. Most vessels require decades to master such manipulation. Thanks, Goku replied, then thrust his hands forward. But I bet they didn't have my teachers. The concentrated void point shot forward, trailing reality distortion in its wake. The lieutenant raised a ND to deflect it, but instead of simply blocking or avoiding as expected, it caught the attack, absorbed it, and redirected its energy into a spinning disk of corrupted void power. Indeed not, it agreed, launching the transformed attack back at Goku. Just as you do not have ours. The disk sliced toward him, its edge sharp enough to sever the bonds of reality itself. Goku dodged, not physically, but by temporarily phasing his existence sideways through dimensions, a technique he'd observed Stella using during their brief training. The attack passed through the space where he'd been, continuing to Earth below, where it sliced through a mountain range before dissipating. Goku reappeared behind the lieutenant, launching a barrage of void-enhanced strikes, each punch and kick not aiming to damage through physical force, but to disrupt the entity's cohesion through opposing void harmonics. The lieutenant absorbed the first few blows, its form rippling but maintaining integrity. Then it countered, its limbs elongating impossibly to encircle Goku from multiple angles simultaneously. Your potential is remarkable, it communicated as they grappled midair, void energy cascading around them in negative auroras. Such a waste that you align yourself with creation's dying light. Creation isn't dying, Goku retorted, breaking free with a pulse of energy that momentarily destabilized local reality. It's evolving, adapting. That's what life does. A limited perspective from one who still clings to mortal understanding. The lieutenant reformed, gathering power for its next attack. When you have witnessed as many universal cycles as we have, you recognize the pattern. Creation always overextends, always destabilizes. Our master merely accelerates the inevitable correction. If it's inevitable, Goku countered, preparing his own response, then why force it? Why not let the cycle complete naturally? The question seemed to give the lieutenant momentary pause. Suffering, it finally answered. A quick end is more merciful than slow entropic decay. That's not your decision to make, Goku declared, cosmic authority resonating in his voice. Not for Earth, not for this universe, not for any reality. Number, the lieutenant agreed, its form suddenly expanding, darkness spreading outward like wings of anti-light. It is our master's decision. We merely prepare the way. It attacked again, not with targeted force but with widespread corruption, void energy twisted into entropic decay that began eating through the very fabric of space-time around them. The atmosphere itself started to unravel, molecules forgetting their bonds, atomic structures collapsing into component particles. Goku recognized the danger immediately, not just to himself, but to Earth below. This attack would cascade downward, accelerating as it consumed more matter and energy, potentially unmaking the entire planet before anyone could stop it. He had one option: containment. Drawing on his deepening understanding of void manipulation, Goku created a boundary around the expanding corruption, not solid, not energy as conventionally understood, but a demarcation in reality itself. A line that said, "This far and no further." The lieutenant recognized his strategy. Impressive again, young god. But containment requires stability you have not yet mastered. To demonstrate, it intensified its attack, the corruption pressing against Goku's boundary like dark water against a dam. Cracks appeared, not visible, but felt as wrongness spreading through the containment structure. Goku gritted his teeth, pouring more power into the boundary. The void energy within him responded eagerly, perhaps too eagerly, surging forward with intensity that threatened to overwhelm his control. His transformation deepened further, his form becoming less solid, more conceptual, the outline of a man containing infinite space. Yes, the lieutenant encouraged, sensing the change. Embrace it fully. Become what you are meant to be. For a dangerous moment, Goku felt himself slipping, his identity stretching thin across expanding cosmic awareness. The void within called to him, offering release from the limitations of individual existence, promising power beyond imagination if he would simply let go of who he had been. Then, cutting through the cosmic temptation, came other voices. Dad, hold on. Kakarot, don't you dare lose yourself, you third-class idiot. Goku, we need you. His family, his friends. Their voices reached him not through his ears but through the connections that defined his existence, bonds of love, friendship, rivalry, shared experience. Anchors to his essential self. Goku seized those connections, using them to pull his awareness back from the brink of dissolution. His form solidified, the transformation stabilizing at a point between mortal and cosmic, not fully either, but something new, a bridge between realms. Thanks, guys, he whispered. Though they couldn't possibly hear him from such distance. I needed that reminder. With renewed focus, he reinforced the containment boundary, not just with power but with purpose. The same purpose that had driven him throughout his life. To protect, to preserve, to stand against forces that would harm those he cared about. The boundary strengthened, the cracks sealing. The lieutenant's corruption, trapped within, began to compress under its own contradictory nature, consuming itself when no more external reality remained to unmake. Fascinating, the lieutenant communicated, ceasing its attack as it recognized the reversal. You use emotional connections as anchors. Primitive, yet effective. They're not just anchors, Goku corrected, maintaining the containment. As the corruption continued its self-consumption. They're the whole point. What good is cosmic power if you forget who you're protecting with it? The lieutenant seemed to consider this, its featureless face tilting slightly. A perspective we had not considered. Perhaps this explains the primordial's unusual choice of vessel. Before Goku could respond, a flash of light announced Stella's arrival. The star goddess materialized beside him, her radiance partially restored now that she operated in open space rather than Earth's fragile atmosphere. The containment system is ready, she announced. Then paused as she assessed the situation, Goku maintaining control over the lieutenant's contained corruption. I see you've been productive. Goku managed a tired smile. Just keeping our guest occupied. How's everyone at the lookout? Holding their own. The resonance trap is functioning as Bulma designed. The shadow entities are being drawn into containment. Her stellar eyes narrowed as she studied the lieutenant. This one, however, requires special handling. Star Weaver, the lieutenant acknowledged Stella with what might have been respect. Still clinging to your luminous delusions. The cosmos darkens despite your efforts. And yet we persist, Stella replied coolly. Creation endures, Lieutenant, as it always has, as it always will, with or without your master's approval. She turned to Goku. We must complete the containment. The resonance trap cannot hold this class of entity, but combined with your void manipulation and my stellar binding. Goku nodded, understanding the concept if not the technical details. Tell me what to do. Under Stella's guidance, they worked in perfect synchronicity, her stellar energy creating boundaries of concentrated creation. His void power establishing internal constraints that the lieutenant's own nature couldn't easily breach. Together, they wove a cosmic prison, layers of existence and non-existence reinforcing each other. The lieutenant watched their work without resistance, its attention shifting between them with analytical interest. Cooperation between star and void, it observed. Unprecedented in recent cycles. Our master will find this concerning. Good, Goku replied, completing the final layer of the containment structure. He should be concerned. The prison complete, they began moving it upward. Away from Earth toward deep space where its eventual failure, for no containment could hold such an entity forever, would pose less immediate danger. As they guided their captured adversary through the upper atmosphere, Stella glanced at Goku with new appreciation in her stellar eyes. You're adapting to your cosmic nature more rapidly than I anticipated, she observed. Your control during combat was impressive. Quote, I had a moment where I almost lost myself, Goku admitted. But then I remembered why I'm doing this. Who I'm protecting. Stella's expression shifted, something-like puzzlement crossing her radiant features. Most cosmic entities discard such connections when they ascend. They become distractions from universal perspective. Well, I'm not most cosmic entities. Goku replied with a ghost of his old grin. And anyway, those connections are what make the universe worth protecting in the first place, aren't they? All those little moments of joy and sadness and love and struggle, that's what makes existence meaningful. Stella did not immediately respond, her gaze turning distant as though considering concepts long forgotten or perhaps never before contemplated. When she finally spoke, her voice carried unusual softness. Perhaps, she allowed, it has been some time since I experienced existence from that perspective. Their conversat. Ion paused as they reached orbital distance, positioning the contained lieutenant in a stable trajectory that would gradually carry it away from Earth's system. This delay changes nothing, the Lieutenant communicated as they prepared to leave it. Eclipse rises. The correction comes. What was sundered will be rejoined. We'll see about that, Goku replied, turning away from the containment structure. Tell your master I said hello. And that Earth is protected. Eclipse already knows your name, Son Goku. The lieutenant's final message followed them as they departed. It knew it before you were born. The cryptic statement lingered in Goku's mind as they returned to Earth, descending through the atmosphere toward the lookout where the others awaited. The implication that his emergence as Void God was not coincidental but somehow preordained troubled him in ways he couldn't fully articulate. Stella, sensing his disquiet, spoke as they neared their destination. Lieutenant, T-class entities often employ psychological tactics. I wouldn't place too much significance on its parting words. Maybe, Goku acknowledged, but it felt like it was telling the truth. Or at least, what it believes is the truth. Truth is malleable across cosmic scales, Stella replied. What seems predestined may simply be probability cascades reaching inevitable convergence points. Goku chuckled. Now you sound like Chronoa. A smile touched Stella's luminous features. The Time Mistress would be horrified by the comparison, I assure you. Our perspectives on causality are quite different. They arrived at the lookout to find the situation improved but far from resolved. The shadow swarm had been largely contained, hundreds of entities now trapped within the resonance device Bulm. I had designed a crystalline structure that hummed with complex energies, temporal stasis fields courtesy of Chronoa visibly maintaining the containment. Earth's defenders showed evidence of hard fighting, torn clothing, various injuries. Exhausted expressions, but they had prevailed, at least for the moment. Den moved among them, healing the worst wounds while preserving enough energy to maintain the lookout's weakened barrier. Chronoa met them as they landed, her color-shifting eyes immediately assessing Goku's condition. You've progressed, she noted without preamble. The combat Axel rated your integration with the Void Essence. Is that good or bad? He asked, genuinely uncertain. It simply is, she replied with that same elegant neutrality she'd displayed earlier. Though the rate of adaptation remains concerning from a timeline stability perspective. Chronoa, Stella interjected, the lieutenant mentioned something troubling. It implied Eclipse was aware of Goku's emergence before it occurred. The Time Mistress's expression tightened. That complicates matters. If Eclipse has gained even limited precognition capabilities, it means this attack was just a test, Piccolo concluded, joining their conversation with his usual strategic insight. They already knew the outcome. Not necessarily, Chronoa corrected. Cosmic precognition deals in probabilities, not certainties. Eclipse may have anticipated Goku's emergence as Void God, but the specific circumstances, his choices, his effectiveness, those would remain variables. So they're gathering data, Vegeta surmised. Arms crossed as he approached the group. Learning our capabilities, our strategies. Precisely. Chronoa tapped her staff against the lookout tiles, tiny temporal ripples spreading from each contact. This was reconnaissance, not conquest. Then they'll be back, Goku said, his expression hardening. With a better plan. Indeed. Stella's radiance dimmed slightly, and I suspect they will target what they now recognize as your primary strength and weakness both, your connections to this world and its people. Chi-Chi stepped forward at that, her expression fierce despite her ordinary human status among cosmic entities and superhuman fighters. Let them try, she declared with characteristic fearlessness. We've dealt with world-threatening disasters before. This isn't our first apocalypse. Her defiance brought smiles to many faces, momentarily lightening the grave mood. Goku looked at his wife with pride and affection, reminded again of why his human actions remained so central to his identity despite his cosmic transformation. Mom's right, Gohan agreed. But we need to be strategic. If these entities can erase people and things from existence itself, we need better defenses. Bulma finished for him, scientific mind already working on improvements to her resonance trap design. And countermeasures specifically tailored to void energy. I can help with that, Goku offered. Now that I understand it better, I might be able to create protective void barriers around our most important locations, like a cosmic vaccine, using a little b. It of the power to prevent the worst version from taking hold. Stella raised an elegant eyebrow at his suggestion. An interesting concept, unorthodox, but potentially viable. That's my dad, Gohan said with quiet pride. Figuring out new techniques on the fly. So we have a temporary reprieve, Piccolo summarized, always focused on practical realities. How long before Eclipse launches a more serious attack? All eyes turned to Chronoa, the time mistress being the logical source for such predictions. She closed her eyes briefly, consulting timelines visible only to her perception. Probability matrices suggest between 3 and 7 Earth days, she finally answered. The temporal ripples from today's confrontation must settle before Eclipse can accurately reassess its strategy. A week at most, Tien translated. Not much time. Time enough, Vegeta countered confidently. Especially if Kakarot continues mastering his new powers at his current rate. Speaking of which, Stella interjected, turning to Goku. Your training remains incomplete. You've shown remarkable intuitive understanding, but there are aspects of void manipulation you've barely touched. Techniques and awareness that could prove crucial in the coming conflict. I know, Goku acknowledged. But I can't leave Earth undefended while I'm off training in some cosmic realm. Perhaps you won't have to, Chronoa suggested, her staff tapping thoughtfully against the tiles. Time functions differently across dimensional boundaries. I could create a temporal pocket, a space where you could train for the equivalent of months while only days pass here. Like the hyperbolic time chamber? Gohan asked. Similar in concept, Chronoa agreed. Though considerably more stable and with fewer limitations on entry and exit. That could work, Goku said, warming to the idea. He glanced at Chi-Chi, silently seeking her approval, a habit decades of marriage had ingrained despite his independent nature. She sighed, reading his expression perfectly. Go, she said with resigned acceptance. Learn what you need to keep us safe. Just try not to completely forget you're human while you're becoming a god, all right? Never, he promised, crossing to embrace her, carefully modulating his transformed presence to avoid harming her with his cosmic energy. That's the whole point of all this power. To protect what matters. As the defenders began organizing repairs and establishing watch rotations, Goku pulled Gohan aside for a private word. I need you to take charge while I'm gone, he told his eldest son. You've got the perfect combination of strength and smarts for this. I will, Gohan promised. But Dad, be careful with this transformation. I can sense how it's changing you, not just your power. But how you perceive things. How you think. I know, Goku admitted. It's strange, like seeing everything from above and inside simultaneously. But I'm still me, Gohan. That's not going to change. Good. Gohan adjusted his glasses, a scholarly habit that contrasted with his warrior's strength. Because that's what makes you different from other cosmic entities, I think. Yo, you don't see the universe as an abstract concept to be maintained. You see all the individual lives within it, each one valuable. Goku smiled, proud of his son's insight. When did you get so philosophical? Probably around the time my dad started becoming a cosmic deity, Gohan replied with a small smile of his own. Their conversation was interrupted by Chronoa, who approached with staff in hand. Already beginning the complex temporal manipulations necessary for creating her promised training dimension. We should depart soon, she advised. Temporal stability in this region will be optimal for dimensional crafting within the next 17 minutes. Right. Goku turned back to Gohan. Take care of everyone. I'll be back before you know it. Chronologically speaking, that's quite accurate. Chronoa noted with mild humor. As preparations for departure continued, Stella stood apart from the others, her stellar gaze fixed not on the activity around her but on Goku himself. Something troubled her, a suspicion forming at the edges of her cosmic awareness, a pattern recognizable only to one who had witnessed universal cycles from their inception. The Saiyan's transformation was progressing too smoothly, his adaptation too perfect. The void energy responded to him as though it had always been part of his nature, as though he had been designed specifically for this role. And that raised questions about design implies designer. When Goku approached to discuss their imminent departure, she kept these concerns to herself. The time for such revelations would come, but not why. Not until he had progressed further in his understanding, not until she had gathered more evidence for her growing suspicion. Ready? She asked instead, her radiance brightening in preparation for cosmic transit. As I'll ever be, he replied with characteristic optimism. Let's see how far this void god thing can go. Around them, Chronoa's temporal manipulations reached completion, Y folding into itself to create a pocket dimension where time would flow according to her specifications. As the dimensional gateway stabilized, Goku turned for one last look at his friends and family, memorizing their faces, recommitting himself to their protection. Then he stepped through alongside his cosmic mentors, vanishing from normal space-time into a realm crafted specifically for his continued evolution. On the lookout, those left behind gazed at the empty space where the three entities had disappeared. The air still shimmered slightly, reality adjusting to the distortion of a temporal pocket being sewn into its fabric. He'll be different when he comes back, Piccolo observed quietly. Again, he always is, Chi-Chi replied with the wisdom of one who had witnessed Goku's many transformations over the decades. But he always stays Goku, too. That's his real power. As night fell over the damaged Earth, stars became visible through breaks in the cloud cover. But those with enhanced perception, Piccolo, Gohan, even Vegeta, noticed something strange about the cosmic vista above. The spaces between stars, the void of space itself, seemed somehow more present, more vibrant, as though awakening to new awareness. The universe itself was changing, responding to the emergence of its new void god. And somewhere in the darkness between worlds, something ancient and patient watched the process unfold with cold anticipation. Eclipse was rising. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Threads of Time. The temporal pocket dimension unfolded around them like a flower blooming in Reaver. Space and time converging into existence rather than expanding from a point. Colors without names cascaded across surfaces without texture, reality constructing itself according to Chronoa's precise specifications. Goku watched, fascinated, as fundamental forces established their dominance in sequence, gravity settling into place, followed by electromagnetic fields, then strong and weak nuclear forces. The laws of physics arranged themselves like instruments tuning before a symphony. Impressive, he murmured, his voice creating the first sound waves in this nascent reality. Merely functional, Chronoa replied, her staff tapping against ground that had only just decided to exist. A simplified framework containing only the elements necessary for your training. As she spoke, the kaleidoscopic chaos resolved into recognizable forms, a vast landscape materialized, rolling plains stretching toward mountains that seemed carved from crystallized time itself. The sky above cycled through different phases simultaneously. Dawn breaking in the east while stars shone overhead and sunset painted the western horizon. Multiple moons hung at different phases, casting overlapping shadows that moved according to no earthly rhythm. Where exactly are we? Goku asked, turning slowly to take in the impossible vista. Nowhere, Stella answered, her radiance adjusting to complement the hybrid illumination. This dimension exists tangential to conventional reality, a pocket of potentiality woven from temporal excess. A training ground, Chronoa clarified more practically. 1 day in our Earth's timeline equals 3 months here. We have created for you what your people might call a shortcut. Goku nodded, mentally calculating. If they had approximately a week before Eclipse's next attack, that translated to almost 2 years of training time within this pocket dimension. Even by his standards, that was substantial. So, he said, clapping his hands together with characteristic enthusiasm, where do we start? Stella and Chronoa exchanged glances, a silent communication between cosmic entities who had known each other for eons. Finally, Chronoa nodded, yielding to some unspoken agreement. We begin, Stella declared, with history. She raised her hand, stellar energy coalescing between her fingers. At the same time, Chronoa lifted her staff, the hourglass atop it beginning to rotate in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their powers combined in the space before Goku, creating a portal unlike any he had witnessed before, a window that seemed to look not just through space but through time itself. To understand what you are becoming, Stella explained, you must first understand those who came before. The lineage of void gods stretches across cosmic cycles, each unique, yet bound by common purpose. The portal shimmered, then resolved to show a being unlike anything Goku had imagined. It resembled a humanoid in only the vaguest sense, a silhouette containing what appeared to be an entire cosmos in negative, stars that absorbed light rather than emitting it, galaxies spinning in directions that hurt the mind to contemplate. The first, Chronoa narrated, her voice taking on the cadence of a historian, emerged during the initial cosmic differentiation, when void and matter first separated. Neither created nor born, but simply manifest when existence required balance. The image shifted, showing the entity moving through primordial space, its passage leaving structure in its wake, the void it embodied somehow enabling creation rather than negating it. The void primordial is not absence, Stella continued, but foundation. Without it, matter would have no space to occupy, energy no medium through which to travel. The first understood this intuitively, serving as architect of emptiness, defining where something could be by establishing where it was not. The portal shifted again, advancing through eons in moments. The first faded, its cosmic lifespan complete, and another figure took its place, different in form but similar in function, a new vessel for the same primordial force. The lineage continued, Chronoa explained, each cosmic cycle bringing forth a new void god when balance required maintenance. Some were born from sentient species that evolved toward cosmic awareness. Others coalesced from void energy itself, consciousness emerging from pattern rather than biology. More images flashed by, dozens of entities, each unique in appearance but sharing that same quality of contained infinity, beings who embodied the space between everything. None has ever been like you, Stella observed, studying Goku's reaction to these visions. A mortal ascending so rapidly, integrating void essence while maintaining original identity. Previous transformations took millennia, consciousness gradually transferring from individual to cosmic. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Goku asked, watching as the parade of his predecessors continued through the portal. Unknown, Chronoa admitted, you represent a statistical anomaly in the cosmic pattern, a deviation without precedent. The portal's images suddenly darkened, showing a void god unlike the others. Where previous vessels had maintained equilibrium between their nature and creation, this one's form appeared corrupted, void energy twisted into configuratio NS that seemed designed to consume rather than contain. The fallen, Stella's voice hardened. The only void god to abandon balance in favor of entropy. It believed creation had become excessive, reality too cluttered with matter and energy. It sought to correct this imbalance by accelerating universal contraction. Eclipse, Goku surmised, watching the corrupted entity unmake entire galactic clusters with casual gestures. Eclipse is what remains, Chronoa confirmed. After the combined forces of creation, star gods, time guardians, even the loyal void entities, managed to defeat and contain it. Not destroyed, for such cosmic forces cannot be unmade, only transformed. The portal showed the epic battle. Cosmic entities of various domains united against the corrupted void god. The conflict raged across dimensions, each clash erasing or rewriting fundamental aspects of reality. Finally, through sacrifices Goku could barely comprehend, the fallen was contained within a prison made from combined cosmic energies. For eons, the seal held, Stella continued, her light dimming slightly at the memory. A new void god emerged to restore balance, and cosmic cycles continued their natural progression. But something changed. The prison weakened. Eclipse began to influence reality even from within its containment. The final images showed the prison, a pocket dimension sealed within energies from multiple cosmic domains, developing hairline fractures. Through these minute imperfections, corruption seeped outward, slowly spreading across realities. And now it's free, Goku concluded as the portal closed. The history lesson complete. Not entirely, Chronoa corrected. Its essence remains partially contained. What you have encountered thus far are merely its harbingers and tenants, fragments of its consciousness acting independently while the main entity continues to gather strength. Which is why we have this opportunity, Stella added. This window to prepare you, to complete your transformation into a void god capable of countering Eclipse's corruption. Goku absorbed this information silently, processing implications that stretched beyond his previous understanding of cosmic conflicts. This wasn't like facing Frieza or even Beerus, enemies with tremendous power but still defined beings with clear motivations. Eclipse represented a fundamental cosmic force turned against its purpose. Entropy weaponized against creation itself. So no pressure, he finally said with a small smile, his characteristic optimism reasserting itself. Just need to become a fully realized cosmic entity in time to save everything. Stella's stellar eyes narrowed slightly. You find humor in this situation. I find humor in most situations, Goku replied with a shrug. Makes the impossible seem possible. And anyway, his expression turned more serious. I've been saving everything since I was a kid. The scale keeps getting bigger, but the job's still the same. T.'s perspective seemed to surprise both cosmic entities, another exchange of glances passing between them, re-evaluation, perhaps, of their unusual student. Very well, Chronoa decided, her staff tap-in. G against the crystallized time that formed the ground beneath them. If you are to save everything, we must accelerate your development. Conventional training methods are insufficient for our timeline. What did you have in mind? Goku asked, immediately intrigued by any new training technique. In response, Chronoa lifted her staff, the hourglass atop it beginning to rotate in complex patterns. The air before them shimmered, then split open. Not a viewing portal this time, but a doorway into swirling, luminous streams that resembled rivers of liquid light. The temporal currents, she explained. The actual flow of time itself, visible only at certain cosmic junctures. Through them, we can do more than simply show you the past. We can immerse you in it, allow you to experience direct Why the development of void manipulation across cosmic cycles? You want me to swim in time? Goku asked, peering at the flowing streams with fascination. In a manner of speaking, Chronoa confirmed. Your consciousness will traverse the currents, witnessing key moments in the development of void techniques. Your body remains here, but your perception travels through history. It is not without risk, Stella cautioned. The untrained mind can become lost in temporal currents, disconnected from its origin point. But the potential benefit outweighs the danger, years of training compressed into moments of subjective experience. Plus, Chronoa added with uncharacteristic lightness, you don't strike me as someone overly concerned with risk. Goku grinned. You've got me there, so how do we start? Place your hands in the current, Chronoa instructed. Allow your consciousness to be drawn in naturally. Do not resist the flow, but maintain awareness of your core identity. That will be your anchor for return. Goku approached the shimmering temporal doorway, the currents behind it pulsing with hypnotic rhythm. He hesitated only briefly before plunging his hands into the luminous flow. Cold unlike anything he'd experienced before shot up his arms. Not physical cold, but temporal, the chill of moments unlived, possibilities unrealized. His vision blurred, reality around him fading as his consciousness was pulled into the currents. For a terrifying instant, he felt himself dispersing, identity dissolving into the vast ocean of time. Then his training, mental as well as physical, asserted itself. He focused on his core self, the essential Goku beneath all transformations and experiences. That fixed point stabilized him within the flow. And then he was traveling, consciousness rocketing through temporal streams at incomprehensible speed. Past and future lost meaning as he witnessed existence from outside linear progression. He saw a primordial void, empty yet somehow pregnant with potential. Within it, the first void god establishing fundamental boundaries between existence and non-existence, creating the framework upon which reality could be constructed. Ancient civilizations rising and falling across countless worlds, some achieving cosmic awareness before transcending physical form entirely. Among them, beings who recognized the void not as emptiness but as canvas. Learning to manipulate it through mathematical principles beyond mortal comprehension. A void god from a middle cosmic cycle, its form resembling a crystalline structure containing negative space. Demonstrating techniques for reality manipulation, not creation or destruction, but reconfiguration, reshaping what exists by altering the void between components. Asterisk. The development of void combat methods, not direct force but indirect application, using the properties of nothingness to neutralize, contain, redirect. Fighting without fighting, winning without engaging, cosmic judo on an unimaginable scale. Asterisk. Each vision lasted both an instant and an eternity, knowledge transferring directly to Goku's consciousness in packets of pure experience. Techniques that would have required decades to master through conventional training embedded themselves in his understanding through direct temporal immersion. Throughout it all, he maintained his anchor, the essential Goku, the individual who existed beneath all transformations. That fixed point prevented him from becoming lost in the vastness of temporal awareness, kept him from dissolving into the endless possibilities streaming past his perception. Finally, the currents carried him to the moment he had been both anticipating and dreading, the corruption of the fallen, the birth of Eclipse. He witnessed a void god of tremendous sophistication, its mastery of the void absolute. Unlike its predecessors, this entity had begun to question the cosmic balance, perceiving creation's expansion as unchecked, invasive. Stellar energies spreading like infection through the pristine void. Asterisk. Its gradual shift from maintenance to correction, from balance to purification. The subtle corruption of its perspective, not sudden madness but logical progression. Each step following reasonably from the last until it reached a conclusion that appeared inevitable. Creation must be curtailed for the good of cosmic harmony. Asterisk. The moment of decision, when maintenance became destruction, the first act of deliberate unmaking, not to create space for new existence, but to erase creation permanently, returning cosmos to void predominance. Asterisk. The coalition formed against it, star gods, time guardians, even loyal void entities united in opposition to its crusade. The cosmic war that followed, reality itself becoming battleground for opposed fundamental forces. Asterisk. The final confrontation, sacrifices made by entities whose names had been forgotten even by cosmic record. The prison constructed from combined powers, the fallen contained but never truly defeated. Asterisk. Goku witnessed this last vision with particular intensity, his consciousness somehow drawn deeper into this specific temporal current. He found himself not merely observing but almost participating, as though his developing void nature resonated with this pivotal cosmic moment. He felt the fallen's conviction, the absolute certainty that it acted correctly, that creation had become excessive and needed pruning. Not evil as mortals understood it, but cosmic perspective taken to logical extreme. The void, after all, had preceded creation and would outlast it. Why not accelerate the inevitable return? The reasoning was seductive in its clarity, its cosmic perspective making mortal concerns seem ephemeral, irrelevant. For a dangerous moment, Goku felt his own thinking align with this perspective, the insignificance of individual lives when measured against universal cycles, the ultimate futility of protecting what must eventually end. Then, cutting through cosmic detachment, came memory, the simple joy of sharing meals with his family, the satisfaction of training with his sons, the exhilaration of friendly competition with Vegeta. Small moments, meaningless by cosmic standards, yet somehow containing more authentic reality than abstract contemplation of universal cycles. Goku seized these memories, using them to reject the fallen's perspective. Yes, creation might be temporary on cosmic scales, but that transience made it more precious, not less. The void would always exist, but the brief flowering of conscious life within it represented something extraordinary. With this realization, he pulled back from the temporal current, his consciousness returning to his anchoring identity. The flow around him accelerated, carrying him forward through time, past the imprisonment of the fallen and into more recent cosmic history. He glimpsed the subtle corruption spreading through reality as Eclipse's influence seeped through weakening containment. He saw attempts by various cosmic entities to address the imbalance, including, surprisingly, deliberate manipulations of certain mortal timelines, subtle interventions designed to produce individuals capable of affecting cosmic outcomes. Before he could focus on these manipulations, the current shifted again, sweeping him forward to the present moment, to the threshold of Eclipse's emergence and his own transformation. He caught fragmentary glimpses of possible futures, branching timelines extending from this nexus point, some leading to renewal, others to absolute entropy. Then, with disorienting abruptness, he was pulled from the temporal currents entirely, consciousness snapping back to his physical form with such force that he staggered backward. Goku. Stella's voice reached him as though from great distance. Focus on your physical form. Reintegrate your consciousness. He blinked, reality around him seeming strangely flat and limited after experiencing existence from outside time itself. Gradually, his perceptions normalized, the dimensional training ground resolidifying around him. That was, he struggled for words adequate to describe the experience. Intense, Chronoa supplied, studying him with her color-shifting eyes. You remained in the currents far longer than anticipated. Subjectively, how much time do you believe passed? Goku considered the question. It felt like years. Decades. Time didn't really work normally in there. Approximately 1 century of subjective experience, Chronoa confirmed. Compressed into 17 minutes of objective time. A new record for non-temporal entities. How do you feel? Stella asked, her stellar gaze assessing changes in his cosmic signature. Different, Goku admitted, examining his hands as though expecting visible transformation. Like my brain got upgraded. I understand things I didn't before, not just techniques, but perspectives. Ways of seeing reality I couldn't even conceive of yesterday. To demonstrate, he gestured casually at the space before him. Reality responded immediately, the void between particles compressing to create visible distortion. With another movement, he reversed the effect. Space expanding to its normal configuration. Void compression and extension, Stella identified the techniques. Advanced manipulations typically requiring decades of practice to master. I saw them, Goku explained. Not just saw, experienced them from the inside. How they work, why they work, when to apply them. He demonstrated again, this time creating a perfect sphere of compressed void energy, similar to the technique he'd instinctively used against the lieutenant, but now executed with precision and control. Impressive, Chronoa acknowledged, her staff tapping now. GHT fully against the crystallized time beneath them. The temporal immersion was more effective than anticipated. Yes, Stella agreed, though something in her tone suggested reservation. Perhaps too effective. Goku looked up from his demonstration, noting her concern. What do you mean? Your void signature has deepened considerably, she explained. The energy integrates more completely with your being after temporal immersion. This accelerates your development, yes, but also increases the risk of identity dissolution. You think I might lose myself to the void? Goku asked, genuinely curious rather than defensive. It remains a possibility, Stella confirmed. Especially given the unprecedented rate of your transformation. No previous vessel integrated void essence so quickly. I'm still me, Goku assured her, thumping his chest for emphasis. Just with a better understanding of what I'm becoming. Chronoa studied him, her temporal perception allowing her to see not his current state but the trajectories of his possible development. Your identity anchor remains robust, she confirmed after careful assessment. However, continued temporal immersion may tax even your exceptional adaptability. So we try something else, Goku suggested, eager to continue his training despite potential risks. I've got the theory now, time to put it into practice. The Cosmi, sea entities exchanged another of their meaningful glances. Then Stella nodded, stellar determination hardening her luminous features. Combat application, she decided. Theory must become instinct if you are to face Eclipse effectively. With a gesture, she transformed a section of the dimensional landscape into what resembled a sparring arena, though one constructed from materials that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Surfaces shifting between solid, liquid, and gaseous as cosmic energies played across them. I will serve as your opponent, Stella declared, her form brightening as she prepared for demonstration combat. My stellar energies represent creation, the natural counterbalance to your void nature. Perfect for controlled opposition training. And I will observe temporal consequences, Chronoa added, withdrawing to the arena's perimeter. Ensuring your techniques don't accidentally unravel causality itself. Goku nodded, moving to position opposite Stella. His TRA, NS for med body responded with eager anticipation, void energy coursing through pathways that had once channeled ki but now conducted something far more fundamental. Begin with basic void projection, Stella instructed, her own stellar energy manifesting as a radiant aura around her humanoid form. Focus, visualize, then release, not as force, but as absence. Goku centered himself, drawing upon techniques gleaned from temporal immersion. He extended his hand, palm outward, and rather than pushing energy forward as with ki manipulation, he created a localized void, a space where energy simply ceased to exist. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Where his projected void touched the arena's shifting surfaces, they temporarily vanished, not destroyed but temporarily removed from existence. When he withdrew the projection, they reappeared unchanged, as though they had merely been obscured rather than erased. Excellent, Stella approved. Now, defend against stellar projection. Without further warning, she launched an attack. Not the concentrated beam of a ki blast, but a radiating wave of pure creative force, stellar energy that embodied existence itself. The wave rushed toward Goku, threatening to overwhelm his void nature with its opposing fundamental property. Instinctively, he responded not by countering force with force, but by creating absence into which the energy could dissipate. The void opened before him, a perfect vacuum that absorbed Stella's attack without resistance or conflict. Very good, she acknowledged, circling to approach from another angle. But predictable, void defense must adapt to multidimensional threats. She demonstrated by splitting her next attack into multiple vectors, stellar energy approaching simultaneously from different spatial coordinates. Goku's single-point defense proved inadequate, stellar energy bypassing his void shield to impact his transformed body. The contact between opposing cosmic forces sent him staggering backward, his form momentarily destabilizing as creation energy interfered with void cohesion. For an instant, he seemed to flicker between states, solid form to nebulous concept and back again. Recovery technique, Chronoa called from the sidelines. Void reconstitution. Goku accessed the knowledge from his temporal immersion, quickly implementing the suggested technique. His scattered void essence responded, cosmic particles realigning according to his identity pattern. Within moments, his form stabilized, void energy once again contained within recognizable parameters. Well done, Stella commented, preparing her next demonstration attack. Adaptation is key to cosmic combat. No single technique remains effective against an experienced opponent. For what felt like hours, they continue. This pattern, Stella attacking with increasingly sophisticated stellar techniques, Goku defending and occasionally counter-attacking with void manipulations learned from his temporal immersion. Each exchange taught him something new about his developing abilities, limitations, applications, unexpected synergies between techniques. Throughout the session, Chronoa observed with analytical precision, occasionally offering cryptic guidance or warning when particular combinations threatened temporal stability. Her presence served as both safeguard and additional instruction, her domain of time interacting with void energy in ways distinct from Stella's creative force. Finally, Stella called a halt to the training, her stellar form dimming slightly to indicate relaxation from combat readiness. Your progress exceeds expectations, she acknowledged. Combat application usually lags behind theoretical understanding, but you integrate them almost simultaneously. Fighting's always been my best learning method, Goku replied, his transformed appearance having deepened further during their session, the void dark GI now containing what appeared to be negative constellations, his eyes holding galaxies in reverse. Something about pressure makes techniques click. A trait that has served you well as a mortal warrior, Chronoa noted, approaching from the perimeter. And apparently continues to benefit your cosmic development. Quote, despite her neutral tone, something in her expression suggested greater significance to this observation, as though Goku's learning style represented more than mere personality trait. Before he could question her meaning, a disturbance rippled through their dimensional training ground. The crystallized time beneath their feet trembled, hairline fractures, spreading across surfaces that should have been immune to conventional forces. Something breaches our temporal pocket, Chronoa announced, her staff already moving in complex patterns to reinforce dimensional boundaries. Impossible, Stella countered, stellar energy flaring defensively around her form. This dimension exists perpendicular to conventional reality. Nothing should be able to. She never finished the sentence. Reality split open before them, not the controlled portal of their earlier historical viewing, but a jagged tear that leaked corruption into their training dimension. Rough this breach stepped figures now familiar to Goku, shadow entities similar to those that had attacked Earth, but larger, more substantial, their forms suggesting greater individuation than the Harbinger swarms. The vessel trains. They communicated in unison, their thoughts bypassing conventional sound to resonate directly in the minds of all present. Development accelerates beyond parameters. Intervention required. Eclipse's lieutenants, Stella identified, moving to position herself between the intruders and Goku. They've tracked your void signature across dimensional boundaries. The Star Weaver interferes. The entities observed with what might have been disappointment. As always, creation meddles where it should not. As always, entropy fails to recognize its proper place in cosmic order. Stella retorted, stellar fire gathering around her outstretched hands. Order, the entities repeated, the concept seemingly amusing to them. A temporary arrangement soon to be corrected. They attacked without further preamble, launching void corruption that differed from Goku's developing power in its twisted application, not the natural absence that provided space for existence, but aggressive anti-creation that sought to unmake with purpose and malice. Stella countered with shields of compressed stellar energy, creation opposing corruption in direct conflict. The collision of forces sent shockwaves through the dimensional pocket, further destabilizing its already compromised structure. The pocket dimension cannot withstand prolonged cosmic combat, Chronoa warned, her staff moving in increasingly complex patterns as she attempted to maintain temporal integrity. Its collapse would strand us between moments, a predicament even I would struggle to resolve. Goku assessed the situation with newfound cosmic awareness, understanding immediately that conventional combat tactics would only accelerate the dimension's destruction. This fight required precision, not power, containment rather than confrontation. I have an idea, he told his mentors, void energy gathering around his transformed body. But I need you both to trust me. They glance at him, Stella pausing in her defensive efforts, Chronoa momentarily halting her temporal manipulations. Something in his voice, his bearing, commanded their attention despite his relative cosmic youth. What do you propose? Stella asked, deflecting another corruption attack without taking her eyes from Goku. Dimensional inversion, he replied, naming a technique he'd witnessed during temper. Immersion, one of the most advanced void manipulations, typically requiring centuries of practice to execute safely. Turning their intrusion against them. Chronoa's color-shifting eyes widened. Quote, that technique destabilized entire timelines when improperly applied. You cannot possibly have mastered it from mere observation. Probably not, Goku agreed with disarming honesty. But I understand the concept. And with your help coordinating the temporal aspects. Another attack from the Eclipse lieutenants interrupted their discussion, this one powerful enough to breach Stella's defenses partially. Corruption spread across the dimensional landscape, crystallized time dissolving into undefined potential wherever it touched. We have little choice, Stella decided, stellar determination hardening her features. What do you need from us? Chronoa, create a temporal loop around the breach point, Goku instructed, his transformed voice carrying natural authority that belied his cosmic youth. Stella, prepare to channel stellar energy through me once the inversion begins. I'll handle the void manipulation. They moved without further debate, cosmic entities with eons of existence. Deferring to the instincts of a being who had held his power for mere days. Chronoa's staff traced complex patterns in reality, creating a closed temporal circuit around the dimensional breach. Stella positioned herself behind Goku, hands poised to channel creative force through his void-adapted form. The Eclipse lieutenants sensed the preparation, their attack intensifying. Resistance futile, they communicated. Vessel will serve Eclipse willingly or unwillingly. Destiny cannot be averted. I make my own destiny, Goku replied simply. With that declaration, he began the dimensional inversion. Drawing upon knowledge gained through temporal immersion, he manipulated the void essence within and around him, not projecting it outward as in combat application, but folding it upon itself. Creating a self-referential loop in the fabric of reality. The technique required precision beyond anything he'd attempted before. The slightest miscalculation would collapse the dimensional pocket entirely, potentially erasing all within it from the timeline. But Goku worked with the intuitive genius that had characterized his martial development throughout his life, feeling the technique rather than intellectualizing it, allowing his cosmic nature to guide his manipulation. Around the breach, space began to invert, the entry point becoming exit, outside becoming inside. The eclipse lieutenants found themselves being pulled back through their own portal, reality itself rejecting their presence like an immune response. Now, Stella, Goku called, void energy threatening to overwhelm his control as the inversion reached critical point. The star goddess responded instantly, channeling stellar creation through Goku's transformed body. The opposing cosmic forces should have annihilated each other upon contact. Instead, Goku served as nexus point between them, his unique nature allowing both to coexist temporarily within his being. The combination created something unprecedented, void and creation intertwined. Negative space defined by positive energy. This hybrid cosmic force completed the dimensional inversion, sealing the breach with a barrier the lieutenants could not easily breach again. The shadow entities roared their frustration as they were pulled back through their own portal, their corruption temporarily cleansed from the training dimension by the combined cosmic forces channeled through Goku. The breach sealed behind them with a sound like reality itself sighing in relief. Goku collapsed to one knee, his transformed body shuddering with the strain of channeling opposed cosmic forces. Within him, void and creation continued their dance, seeking equilibrium after forced cooperation. Stella and Chronoa hurried to his side, their expressions showing something new, concern mixed with reassessment, as though witnessing something that challenged eons of cosmic understanding. Impossible, Stella murmured, stellar hands hovering over Goku's trembling form. You channeled creation through void without annihilation. The energies should have destroyed each other, and you with them. The temporal implications are significant, Chronoa added, her STAFF scanning Goku's fluctuating cosmic signature. No entity in recorded history has successfully merged opposed fundamental forces within a single form. Goku managed a weak smile. First time for everything, right? His attempt at levity failed to lighten the moment. The cosmic entities exchanged another of their meaningful glances, this one carrying greater weight than previous communications. This development requires discussion, Chronoa decided, her tone suggesting implications beyond Goku's current understanding. And you require rest to reintegrate your cosmic energies after such unprecedented manipulation. I'm fine, Goku protested, attempting to stand despite obvious strain. We should continue training while we have time. You are not fine, Stella countered firmly. You have performed cosmic manipulation beyond your development stage. Without proper reintegration, you risk permanent destabilization of your void essence. As if to emphasize her point, Goku's transformed appearance flickered, solid form momentarily dissolving into conceptual void before reasserting physical parameters. Okay, he conceded reluctantly. Maybe a short break. At Chronoa's direction, they moved to a different section of the dimensional pocket, a space she modified to facilitate recovery, temporal currents flowing in soothing patterns that encouraged cosmic realignment. Goku sat, T-led cross-legged within this regenerative environment, his transformed body gradually stabilizing as void essence reintegrated with his core identity. While he rested, Stella and Chronoa withdrew to confer privately. Their conversation conducted partially through conventional communication and partially through cosmic resonance beyond Goku's current perception. This exceeds all projections, Chronoa began without preamble. His adaptation rate defies statistical models. Indeed, Stella agreed, stellar eyes troubled as she observed their student from afar. The void essence responds to I am as though engineered specifically for integration with his particular existence pattern. You suspect deliberate design. The evidence grows difficult to dismiss, Stella replied. Particularly in light of Eclipse's interest. It seems to recognize him, not merely as void vessel, but as specific entity. If true, the implications for timeline sanctity are profound, Chronoa noted, her staff tapping rhythmically against crystallized time as she processed possibilities. Retroactive cosmic engineering violates fundamental temporal protocols. Yet we cannot ignore the results, Stella countered. Regardless of how or why, Goku represents our best hope against Eclipse's resurgence. His unique ability to channel both void and creation could prove decisive in the coming conflict. He survives complete transformation, Chronoa cautioned. Even with his exceptional adaptation, the final stage of becoming Void God carries significant risk of identity dissolution. Then we must prepare him, Stella decided. Not just in technique, but in understanding. He must comprehend what he faces, both externally in Eclipse, and internally in his own evolving nature. Their discuss. Ion was interrupted by a disturbance different from the previous breach, subtler, more harmonious with the dimensional fabric. The crystallized time beneath them hummed with resonant frequency, respond. Ing to an entity attempting contact rather than intrusion. Earth. Chronoa identified the source. Someone reaches for him across dimensional boundaries. They return to Goku, finding him already alert to the contact attempt. His expression showed recognition despite the barrier between dimensions. Gaia, he said simply. I can feel her reaching for me. The Earth Spirit. Stella's stellar eyebrows raised in surprise. How do you recognize an entity you've never encountered? I've known her all my life, Goku replied, a smile touching his transformed features. I just didn't know what to call her until now. He closed his eyes, extending his awareness through void pathways that connected dimensions despite apparent separation. Through these cosmic corridors, a presence manifest. Within their training ground. Not physically, but as an impression, an echo of tremendous power confined to planetary domain. The manifestation took feminine form, though, human, would be inadequate description. Her body appeared composed of living earth, skin like fertile soil, hair flowing green as summer meadows, eyes deep as ocean trenches. When she moved, continental plates shifted. When she breathed, seasonal winds circulated. Though only a projection within their dimension, her presence carried weight beyond physical measurement, the accumulated consciousness of an entire living world. Son Goku. Her voice sounded like forests rustling, rivers flowing, animals calling across diverse biomes. I have watched you since you first set foot upon my surface. Now, finally, you can perceive me in return. Gaia. Stella acknowledged the manifestation with respect equal to that she'd shown Chronoa. Your intervention is unexpected. Necessity transcends protocol, Star Weaver, Gaia replied, her attention remaining focused on Goku. My domain faces existential threat. The corruption spreads beyond your defenders' containment ability. Eclipse's forces attack again, Goku asked, rising to his feet. Cosmic fatigue forgotten in face of potential danger to his homeworld. Not directly, Gaia explained, her earthen features showing concern beyond conventional expression. The previous incursion left seeds, void corruption that grows like cancer through my body. Your friends fight to contain it, but without true void manipulation, they merely delay the inevitable spread. I need to return, Goku declared, turning to his mentors with determination replacing exhaustion in his transformed features. Your training remains incomplete, Stella reminded him. Particularly AF. Chair the energy expenditure of repelling the lieutenants. Your control over void manipulation will have to be enough, Goku finished firmly. I won't stay here training while my home dissolves into nothingness. Chronoa studied him with her color-shifting eyes, temporal awareness allowing her to perceive probability cascades extending from this decision point. The timeline shows significant destabilization if you return prematurely, she cautioned. Your incomplete mastery could accelerate the very corruption you seek to contain. Or it could be exactly what's needed, Goku countered. Theory and practice are great. But real mastery comes from necessity. Always has for me. Gaia's manifestation moved closer to him, earth-formed hand extending toward his transformed being. The say, and speaks truth that transcends cosmic calculation, she told the other entities. His connection to my domain runs deeper than residence, his void nature resonates with my planetary consciousness in W.A.Y.S. unexpected but potentially beneficial. To demonstrate, she touched Goku's shoulder. Where planetary essence met void transformation, unexpected harmony manifested, not opposition between distinct forces, but complementary energies finding balance. The connection stabilized Goku's fluctuating cosmic signature, void essence settling more comfortably within his transformed body. Interesting, Stella observed, scientific curiosity temporarily overriding strategic concerns. Earth's unique composition includes significant void space, the gaps between atoms, the planetary core, the caverns and oceans. Perhaps this provides complementary resonance with his developing void nature. Or perhaps, Chronoa suggested with meaningful emphasis, this represents another statistical anomaly Cerrone. Ding his transformation, further evidence of deliberate design rather than cosmic coincidence. Gaia's earthen features shifted, suggesting awareness beyond her projected presence. Theories can wait, she stated practically. Action cannot. The corruption approaches a tipping point beyond which even void manipulation may prove insufficient. How long do we have? Goku asked, his transformed Min. Decalculating temporal differentials between dimensions. In your relative time frame within this pocket dimension. Hours at most, Gaia replied. In Earth's linear progression, approximately 3 days remain before critical mass. Then my decision's made, Goku declared, turning to his cosmic mentors with determination that brooked no argument. I'm going back. Now. Stella and Chronoa exchanged one final meaningful glance. Centuries of communication compressed into momentary eye contact. Then, surprisingly, Stella smiled, her stellar radiance softening from scientific assessment to something approaching personal connection. Your development exceeds conventional metrics, she acknowledged. Perhaps traditional training parameters no longer apply. Additionally, Chronoa added, her staff tapping a complex rhythm against crystallized time. Temporal analysis suggests multiple viable pathways stemming from immediate return. Not all lead to catastrophe. Then you'll help me get back. Goku confirmed. We will do more than that, Stella declared. We will accompany you. This announcement clearly surprised both Goku and Gaia, their expressions showing parallel confusion despite vastly different manifestations. Both of you? Goku questioned. Don't you have, I don't know, cosmic responsibilities elsewhere? Eclipse's resurgence represents priority beyond routine maintenance, Stella explained. And your unique development warrants continued observation and guidance. Put simply, Chronoa translated with unusual directness, you've become too interesting to abandon to self-directed experimentation. Quote, and too valuable, Stella added, her tone suggesting multiple layers of meaning beyond the obvious. Gaia's manifestation studied the cosmic entities with RTHEN eyes that held accumulated wisdom of planetary duration. The Star Weaver and Time Mistress walking physical surface simultaneously, she observed. Such convergence has not occurred within my life cycle. Unprecedented times demand unprecedented measures, Chronoa replied simply. Goku looked between the three cosmic entities, representatives of fundamental forces that shaped existence itself, and found himself momentarily overwhelmed by the significance of their convergence around his transformation. Then his characteristic adaptability reasserted itself, complex cosmic implications reduced to practical necessity. So we go back together, he summarized. Stop the corruption, finish my training on Earth, and prepare for Eclipse's next move. A simplification, but essentially correct, Stella confirmed. Stellar energy gathering around her form as she prepared for dimensional transit. The dimensional return requires coordination, Chronoa advised, her staff already tracing TTERNS to dissolve the training pocket they had created. Gaia's connection provides anchor point to Earth-specific coordinates, my temporal manipulation ensures arrival at correct moment in linear progression. And Stella's creative force stabilizes the transition. And me? Goku asked. You serve as Nexus, Gaia explained, her manifestation beginning to fade as she withdrew consciousness to her planetary domain. Your connection to both Earth and Void creates the pathway we shall follow. I'll prepare the way, she promised as her earthen form dissolved into conceptual impression. The defenders gather at the primary corruption site. Join us there. As Gaia's presence faded completely, Chronoa's temporal manipulations accelerated, the training dimension beginning to fold upon itself as she reversed its creation. Around them, crystallized time liquefied, returning to the universal flow from which she had temporarily diverted it. The dimensional pocket collapses, she explained as reality wavered around them. Prepare yourself for transition. Stella moved to stand beside Goku, her stellar hand taking his void-transformed one. Where their opposed cosmic natures touched, unexpected harmony manifested, similar to his connection with Gaia, but more intense, fundamental forces recognizing complementary potential. Together, she instructed, extending her other hand to Chronoa. who completed their circle with staff still tracing reality-altering patterns. Focus on Earth, Stella continued as the dimension collapsed around them. On your connection to it, visualize the corruption Gaia described. Your void nature will be drawn to its cosmic opposite automatically. Goku closed his eyes, centering his awareness on Earth, not as abstraction, but as home, as the living planet that had nurtured him from childhood despite his alien origins. He felt Gaia's distant consciousness acknowledging this connection, planetary awareness recognizing individual significance. Through this bond, he sensed what she had described, points of wrongness spreading across Earth's surface and into her deeper structures, void corruption twisting natural emptiness into aggressive anti-creation. The largest concentration gathered in a familiar location, the mountainous region where he had first experienced his void awakening. There, he identified cosmic awareness extending across impossible distance. That's where we need to go. Then that is our destination, Stella confirmed, stellar energy intensifying around their joined circle. Chronoa completed her temporal manipulation, reality fully unraveling around them. Transition in 3, she counted, her staff freezing in final position. 2, 1. The dimensional pocket collapsed completely, cosmic energies channeling through their connected forms. For a moment that existed outside conventional time, they hung suspended between realities, unanchored, unbounded, pure potential without manifestation. Then Goku's connection to Earth asserted itself, drawing them through void pathways toward the corrupted planet waiting 3-dimensional translations away. Reality reassembled around them, cosmic awareness compres. Sing back into individualized perception. They materialized in chaos. The mountain range where Goku had first experienced void manifestation had transformed beyond recognition. What had been pristine, wilderness now resembled a war zone between opposing fundamental forces. The corruption Gaia had described spread visibly across the landscape, patches where reality simply ceased, matter and energy unmade rather than destroyed. Between these expanding zones of nothingness, Earth's defenders fought desperate holding actions. Piccolo and Gohan maintained a defensive perimeter, their combined ki attacks slowing but not stopping the corruption's advance. Android 18 evacuated civilians from nearby settlements, her artificial body less susceptible to the void influence than organic matter. Vegeta, transformed to his highest state, launched continuous attacks against what appeared to be focal points of the corruption, areas where the unmaking concentrated before spreading outward. At the center of this battlefield, partially visible through distorted reality, stood a figure both familiar and alien. A woman with flowing green hair, skin like polished stone, eyes reflecting ecosystems, Gaia I. Physical manifestation rather than dimensional projection. The Earth spirit had manifested a tangible form to directly combat the corruption threatening her planetary body, her hands pressed against the ground as she channeled counter-influence through the soil itself. Their arrival did not go unnoticed. Vegeta detected them first, his Saiyan senses attuned to cosmic energy despite lacking true void perception. Kakarot, he called, pausing momentarily in his assault. About time you returned from your cosmic vacation. Goku stepped forward, his transformed appearance even more pronounced. After the intensive training within the temporal pocket, where before he had resembled a void-shadowed version of himself, now he manifested as something between mortal and cosmic entity, form solid yet suggesting infinite depths. Eyes containing negative galaxies, movement leaving temporal echoes in his wake. Vacation's over, he replied, void energy gathering around him as he assessed the corruption spread. Time to get to work. With Stella and Chronoa flanking him like cosmic sentinels, he advanced toward the heart of the conflict, and the waiting Earth spirit who had watched over him since childhood. Now revealed at last in her true form amidst the chaos of beginning apocalypse. Chapter 3 End. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.